Hello, everyone, and welcome to Living by the Law, the podcast discussing fictional worlds and how wondrous and ridiculous they are. My name is Matt, and I'm joined by my co-hosts, Jude and Guy. Living by the Law is not currently sponsored. If you wish to sponsor us, find the largest knife in your house and sell it to the highest bidder. Invest that money in glory and dreams. Once you've amassed a great fortune, declare your sponsorship the greatest of all time and have it recorded as such in the history books. We will hear you. We always do.
Krakatau, Pompeii. These are some historical examples of volcanic eruptions. But what happens when fantasy takes over? When we have a unrealistic, fantastical mountain range of volcanoes? What happens when they erupt in the heart of a great empire? Find out today as we go into the Doom of Valyria. This episode will contain spoilers for Fire and Blood, A Song of Ice and Fire, Game of Thrones, and House of the Dragon. Enjoy!
So I got back from Japan recently. I'm disappointed but aware. Which everyone who's interacting with me last week has just been like, oh, really? Japan? I bring it up every 2 seconds.
Of course, as you should. Correct.
Yeah. But I fucking love Tokyo because it fills all my nerd fantasies of being able to go to a real life like Pokemon Center and seeing all these plushies everywhere and just going through like, I'm not an anime guy, but I really appreciate like the anime district there.
Yeah.
And
That's
just
cool.
so much fucking toys. I'm a collector at heart, and I think Japan nearly drained my fucking bank account.
Incredible.
Through all the shit I bought.
Yeah, I've been to enough markets with you to know that you just compulsively buy stuff.
I'm very compulsive buyer. Also, I like trinkets. If my ideal home is a clean, tidy home with trinkets on every surface that's free.
I'm intrigued by that because that is not my definition of a tidy home.
Well,
mine's like a museum. Nothing. Blank walls. And actually, museums specifically do have shit in them.
It's like the one place you expect to see something
Yeah.
on a wall.
Hospital? No, there's still stuff in
Yeah.
a hospital. What's a place with nothing in it? I guess it's not called anything.
An abandoned house.
Yeah, an abandoned
An
house.
abandoned household, yeah.
I want like Bruce Wayne's fucking basement from those movies where he's just got like a massive amount of space and like 3 square meters of it is taken up by one car and like a desk.
And like, yeah, there's like the desk with like the monitors,
Yeah,
and then
correct.
there's just nothing
And it's
else
got
there.
nerd lighting across the roof.
Yeah,
Nothing else.
That's
fantastic.
literally the opposite of what I want.
Concrete floors, baby. Concrete.
By organized, I mean I know where everything is.
Organized mess.
It's an organized mess.
Yeah.
And all, but like there's even like there's boxes and shelves that I know what they are. Everything's in boxes. But like every surface, if it's a display or a wall, it has like something on it, like a poster or a nice framed map, or like, and surfaces have like trinkets, like how we fill our set with like Mjolnir and little Pokemon toys and scrolls and books. I love that vibe. I went to Universal Studios in Japan. Bringing up Japan again.
That's a weird fucking. Okay, yep, continue.
Universal Studios, but no,
Fuck yeah.
the reason I'm transitioning is because there's a they make like Hogsmeade there, and looking in the windows they have stacked books and old scrolls and old like all these trinkets and like magical things. That is my ideal vibe.
I get that.
I like it. I went past a place in Carlton the other day which had a old pharmacy, and it's obviously been open for a while because they had like normal pharmacy shit like in the store, but in the front window, I don't think they've changed it since like the 90s because it was all just like super faded boxes of like Dr. Pepto-Bismol's little miracle cure. It's the most incredible
pretty
shit.
funny.
I need to take a photo of it next time I'm there.
Yes.
I respect a little bit of history, a little bit of
Yeah, no, definitely.
Little bit of
definitely.
grind.
Old timey vibe. As long as it's not the old timey like medicine, they got the new updated
I
shit.
need that old timey medicine.
You want meth?
I want cocaine.
Okay, honestly fair. Whatever they're giving us right now is not working enough. I'm
exactly,
still so
exactly.
tired.
The fact
Yeah.
that they're not giving me things is actually my current issue. I just want some.
Yeah.
Just give me a little bit.
Just give
Just
me
a little.
anything.
Just a
Something that'll
Give me
help.
a delicious little taste of some opioids. I think they help you.
I think so.
Yeah, they really helped. Historically, helped everyone they've been given to.
You know what else historically helps Guy and Matt and me a little bit?
Yeah.
Our Patreon.
Yay!
Yeah.
That was a great pivot.
We always celebrate
Yeah.
a good pivot.
We do. Do you want to talk about our Patreon, Matt?
Yeah. Well, currently we have 5 members of Patreon. So thank you to all 5 members. Thank you to our prestige law keepers, Luke Nukem and Shadow. Thank you, both of you. And to our novice law keepers, Mike and Jacob from Norway. And our newest member to the novice law keepers, Leon.
Leon.
Woo!
Woo!
We love a new
Thank you,
one.
Yep. Leon. We appreciate you joining us. Leon has also joined our Discord, which you can join for free. You do not have to be a patron to join our Discord.
This is true.
And you can help talk about law stuff, talk about episodes, talk about new things we might want to research.
ERP, game nights, movie nights, whatever you're looking for.
You are selling this way too hard for something we've done like once. But that reminds us, we do need to do more online stuff if we can. But
Online, generally for a podcast, it is a good idea to do online
no,
stuff.
I mean like we have a
Guy's gonna start streaming League of Legends soon.
we have a
yeah, you get to see my fucking bronze elo.
Yeah.
Twitch. We have a Twitch account at Living by Law Pod. So you should come join us there. We do our live sometimes, and you can also follow us at Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, where we post like little bits and stuff.
I don't know if I do want to do more streaming because last time we streamed, was it Shiv or no?
Mordhau. Yeah.
Mordhau, and a guy just bullied me about the fact that I was throwing rocks as my entire stream. Like, I'm having fun. He's like, it's not optimal. I'm like, I know.
That was very
fair,
funny.
To be fair, it was the dumbest thing I've ever seen in my life.
It worked. I was always the last one alive, so
Anyway, but Leon, from talking to them on
Discord.
Yeah, thank you for
Discord.
helping.
That's all right.
They're from Sydney. They seem like a pretty awesome dude, and they've
Fuck
given
yeah.
some suggestions already.
Incredible.
Excellent.
So-
we love suggestions because I'm gonna be real with you guys. We get to the topics that we liked in like the first year, and now it's like evolving. And there's new topics we pick up, new TV shows that come out, and occasionally you get to writing an episode, and you're like, I've got no fucking idea what this one's gonna be.
I agree with that too, but also like you get to a point where I swear the moment before you start to write an episode, you have no clue, and then the moment after you're like a little bit into an episode, you come up with like 10 different ideas, and
This
like
is
you write
also
them all
true.
down.
Yeah,
And you're like, everything sounds good to write an episode on, and then you start writing an episode on it, and you're like, how do I make this work and explain everything in an hour and a half?
I'll alter asterisk. My girlfriend has been begging me for a while now to do the Plants vs. Zombies lore, which I looked into briefly and discovered that it's a YouTube video which was built off a shitpost, which was built off technically some stuff that some of the characters did in the game, because there isn't actually like canon lore. So I had to give up on that relatively quickly.
That's
when do
funny,
you
though.
have to just stop like fan theories or like fan lore?
It's so
Does it
disappointing
count?
when people are like, this lore's incredible. You see like an hour and a half video on it and it's just some guy just talking shit.
I love headcanon.
I love headcanon. It's my own thing, but it like flag it as such. Don't say it's the law. That's not
yeah.
the law. The writer didn't intend that.
We don't live by the headcanon. We live by the law.
We do.
by the
we do.
law. We live by the canon.
That's true.
Yes.
Your trip to Tokyo, Matt, just reminded me as well. The next episode that I really want to do, I got really obsessed with and have been rewatching. But the problem is, I got re-obsessed with it and rewatched it after I'd done part 1 of Valyria. So the whole time I'm sitting there writing the script for part 2 of Valyria, which we'll get to in a minute, I swear, listener. And I'm just
we're
like,
doing that today. What?
I'm just like, fuck. I really want to do this that I'm literally watching on the side while I write the script. Why aren't I doing that? That's right, because I thought it'd be a fun idea to do a 2-parter. But that's okay. We'll get to that. Dipping my toes into anime next time.
You didn't say what it was.
Huh?
You say what it was.
Have I?
You haven't.
I haven't.
No,
What is
next
it?
time.
Don't. He won't.
Oh, it's spoilers.
It's a spoiler.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm gonna. It is a thing that has been requested by a patron in the Discord. I've wanted to do for a while. Is an anime. Is a fairly entry-level anime, I would say. I mean, I've watched it, therefore it's entry-level. I'm not a big anime person. I think I've watched 2 in my life, and this is one of them. I don't know. Guy typed one to me. That's not. I haven't heard of that.
That's all right.
It's very entry level, and it's not Attack on Titan.
Damn.
I know exactly what it is.
Cool.
I don't.
Maybe,
Anyway,
if you're more active in the Discord, you'd know.
Well, if we was more active in the Discord, then I would know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get active.
Maybe. I will. A Discord mod. That's something I can put on the resume.
Yeah, damn right. It's one of my LinkedIn skills, dude.
They'll respect that.
Yeah. Last time I got a headhunting email to my work email that said, "I noticed that you run a podcast and you're a Discord admin."
Yeah,
Totally.
No way.
Incredible.
No,
Yeah.
actually, no.
Fuck no.
Okay.
The moment of belief. The moment of belief.
You think I have the
When we are
podcast
in
on
this
my
space, we
LinkedIn?
truly enter a world of wonder and imagination.
You are technically, dude, a professional podcaster because
Hey,
you
I
are
There's
write
no
about-
technically about it.
I think I've mentioned my audio skills and knowledge. I don't think I've mentioned the podcast specifically. Anyway, so we're doing part 2 of Valyria. The Doom! Matt, you gotta say it.
the Doom.
Thanks. Not to be confused
Sorry,
with...
this guy's giving me the most deadly stare of all time. You want to do it really?
Yes.
You want to do it for real?
the Doom.
Cool.
Incredible.
Fantastic.
I'm so sorry for us fucking listening to
It's
that.
incredible. No, it's great.
No, I was trying to think of the word, and I remember it now because what I was going to say to you while I was giving you that stare was, "I'm going to use your nuts as a speed bag." Like,
You punched the mic.
I did. I punched the mic a little bit. I couldn't remember the word speed bag though, so that was why I was staring at you. It was not genuinely out of malice, apart from the fact that I was about to say that. But
Yeah. Sorry, I'm trying to think how to properly insult you. Just give me a sec. It's not
correct.
malice.
It
trust
takes me a minute.
Incredible.
Valyria, what's going on?
So,
last we left off, they were fucking dragons or something.
what do you guys
And their
remember?
siblings.
So, what do you guys remember about last time?
Yeah.
Valyria,
So, Valyria.
as it was the last episode that
you
we
go, guy.
recorded.
Dragon Rock. They had 5 dragons. Now they've got 3. They're lording over a bunch of the countries. The other lordships. What the fuck were the regions called?
Kingdoms?
The Valyrian Freehold was there, or the 7 Kingdoms?
The 7 Kingdoms.
Yep.
Them, and then the ones that never fell. The
Yep, Dawn,
ones,
yep.
Dawn that never fell, except they did because they kind of just gave up and were like, "Yeah, we're part of you now," except they're not because they're
Yep.
little rebels and sex.
So,
It's good. It's good.
talking about actual Valyria.
Yeah.
They were like ancient magical Rome, and
Uh-huh.
they took over a bunch of Essos, and they were slavers because that fucking happened.
Yep.
And they fought these people who had magic powers, and they made the magic water powers beat one dragon, so they sent 1,000 after them and killed them all.
Oh yeah.
And
Yep.
then
They had a big celebration because they managed to kill a dragon.
Yeah.
And then they went, okay, here's 500.
yeah, it's a fuck ton of dragons.
Yep.
And Valyria have big volcanoes. The 14
Flames.
14
Yep.
flames.
They started their empire on a peninsula that was surrounded by volcanoes.
Isn't that a
Seems
real
safe.
thing?
No, there's the Ring of Fire.
That one.
Yeah.
But that's like in the Pacific, I believe.
Yeah.
But
It's my
what
blood
else?
after a good curry. am I
They
right?
fuck their siblings a lot, and then the Targaryens really like to fuck their siblings
They
a lot.
really do.
And they're way too attractive for fucking their siblings so much. And there's a council of dragon people who rule over the rest of people.
Yep.
And they fuck their dragons.
They fuck their dragons.
They fuck their dragons.
Yep. So that it's
so
not
none of that was correct.
you got a few things right.
Pretty wrong.
So yes, there was the 14 flames, and there were some shepherds that discovered dragons and found a way to tame dragons through some means that we aren't sure about.
Fucking.
And they founded the Valyrian Freehold, which was a powerful empire, and it took its status by crushing an old empire called the Empire of Geese,
Fucking
and took control of the slaver
sex.
cities, and decided that the part that it wanted to take from this empire that it dismantled was their slaving customs, based, I guess.
Dude. Hey.
No, whoa,
Hey, whoa.
whoa.
No. Incorrect.
Jude's been reading too many
Jude's
books.
cancelled.
Jude's
Continue.
been reading too many old books with slavery.
Jude's
in
been
them.
hanging out
They-
with his grandparents.
I wish. They also drove the... They also drove a people named the Roinar, who were the water mages, into exile and established 8 of the 9 free cities that fell under the area of the Valyrian Freehold. And that's basically it. And then the thing that we really left off on was that the family known as the Targaryens, one of them, Daenerys the Dreamer, Daenerys the Dreamer, not Denise.
Say Denise. That's a very normal name.
Daenerys the Dreamer had a vision, a prelude of what was to come, and her father heeded its warning and sold all of his family estates and basically took 5 of their dragons, a shitload of dragon eggs, and their entire family and soldiers and everything, and left to the island of Dragonstone and began establishing themselves there.
That one, yes.
And then they left a bunch of TNT under the whole place and blew it up.
We'll get to that theory. So, a couple of things that I missed last time. Well, missed/skipped over for the sake of time last time, but I thought fun little throwaway mentions. So we talked about like the whole Rome aspect of Valyria. There's one big part that I really should have mentioned that's just so like, if it wasn't already obvious that they're Rome, it's obvious now. And that is the fact that they constructed the dragon roads, which are just a really well-established and founded set of roads that are still used hundreds of years later.
All roads lead to Valyria.
That's it. They
they
sure
say.
do. Yep, guys, just got the map up again from last
Oh,
time.
yeah.
Fantastic.
I remember
Yeah.
talking about the exploded bit. That was funny.
Yep, that's it. And we'll get to that this time. And secondly, a thing that I missed, which Matt, I thought might have bullied me for forgetting to mention, but we didn't really talk about Valyrian steel.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah. So we talked about
My
like how...
man forgot about Valyrian steel.
Yeah.
Fucking rookie. Dude, tell the experts what's going on here.
Yeah, I know, right? Fuck. So Valyrian steel is steel. Created through
In Valyria.
process
Boom, got him,
of... Yeah.
got him.
Well, yes. It is a process of... It's made through a process of folding iron, and it comes out very similar to real-world Damascus
I
steel.
was going to say that's just Damascus.
Yep. But it combines unique Valyrian magic that we don't know about in the crafting. The steel is stronger, lighter, and more durable than normal steel. The quote that we hear so many times throughout the show, nothing holds an edge like Valyrian steel.
It's just like how they had like concrete back in the day that we've only recently figured out how there was better than our concrete.
The
today.
self-repairing concrete from the Romans, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's like how they had like Greek fire back in the day.
Exactly.
You also said Valyrian magic, and I was going to make the joke of maybe it's sex magic. And then you confirmed my theory by saying nothing can hold an edge like Valyrian steel.
You have to fuck the steel.
You have to fuck it.
You do.
Everything Valyrian, you actually has
Put
involved
your
sex.
nuts in the furnace.
All right.
If you're a true dragon rider, you could put your nuts in the furnace.
Absolutely.
That's kind of similar thing as well.
it's kind of similar.
No, well, I was going to say the thing with Damascus steel as well, because we did lose the knowledge of how Damascus steel was made for a long time.
You put balls in it. Put your balls in it.
And that's very similar to Valyrian steel. After the fall of Valyria, the way of making it was lost, and the Valyrian steel that was already out in the world became an incredibly valuable and prized and expensive thing, because no one could make it anymore. And since the fall of Valyria, so 400 to 500 years, no new Valyrian steel swords have been made. There has been one example in the books and show where someone was able to take a really big sword and turn it into two smaller swords, but that was not making new swords.
Yes, like some really skilled people can recraft it.
Yeah,
But they can't make
reshape it, but they can't.
Which implies that it's really the magic is in the steel itself, not how you make the swords.
Yeah. It's very similar. Things that I found about it, there's also some similarities kind of between Damascus steel and also stuff that the I forget which group, but one of the Scandinavian countries in the Viking Age did, where they actually like use blood and bits of bone in the crafting
I've
process
heard
of
about
it.
that. Yes.
Yeah. It's the implication is that it's the Valyrian magic is a really specific combination of blood magic and stuff that they use in the crafting of it.
I mean, blood has iron and carbon in it, so it's just steel.
It's true.
Well, it doesn't seem a great idea to put the blood in the sword.
Probably not.
Probably not.
How many swords you made?
Shut up.
That's what I thought, idiot. But yeah, Valyrian steel, super valuable thing, really powerful sword, and they become very coveted prizes, even during the reign of Valyria. Valyria could kind of do a little bit shit, but they could kind of do like the rock up to foreign lands that were years behind them and go, look at this good sword, give me loads of gold and I'll give it to you. And they go, yeah, sure. And
Incredible.
yeah, they did a lot of expeditions to Westeros and other parts of Essos and basically went, hey, if you buy this sword from us, it's really good. And then they did. And that's why in the modern time of the show, there's loads of families that have like their family heirloom. But anyway,
I never fuck with the idea of a family heirloom being a sword or like something functional. It's like maybe I don't know. There's not a lot of stuff where it's just like, yeah, you should leave that on the shelf. It's like you've got a god weapon. in the living room.
Oh,
above
they
the
do.
mantelpiece?
They do
still
use
use
it, though.
them.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fair. It's just
Yeah.
I see a lot of fantasy where they're like, it's the family heirloom, and it's like the staff of the God Whisperer. It's like, why is that on the mantelpiece, my guy? You could be using
It
that.
could be used.
Hey, it's like it's the too good to use syndrome, where
Yeah.
like, you know, in like a video game where you have a bunch of like items and you don't use them until like, and you end up not using them at all because you're like, oh, I need to save this for the fight.
Yeah, that's fair.
So this is like they're saving it for the ultimate fight, and it never
true.
comes.
Breath of
It's
the
true.
Wild style, that makes sense, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Fair
Exactly.
enough.
And the final thing I'll say in Valyrian Steel that's kind of, from what we've seen in the show, this is a little bit of like, it's not really relevant to the episode, but like for anyone that is aware of Game of Thrones, there's the White Walkers, the Whites, whatever you want to call them, and you need dragon glass or obsidian to kill White Walkers. They don't die to normal steel. We find that Valyrian steel is actually capable of killing these undead creatures.
Has that been confirmed in the books?
I don't know if it's been confirmed in the books. I think it has been, but I don't know.
From my memory, I don't know.
I don't know if
I
it
think
has
it's confirmed it kills it kills whites, but I don't know if it kills White Walker. We've confirmed that yet.
I don't think it's been. I think it's been confirmed through the show,
Yeah.
and George has kind of admitted that it's going to be the same.
Yeah.
But the running theory to that is that it means that Valyrian steel with some form of dragon fire must be involved in the crafting of Valyrian steel, because we also see dragon fire be capable of killing whites and White Walkers. So we can piece together a few things with it.
Unless the show just wants to ignore that and
Well,
have
that's the thing. They
have
could
the
very
Lord
well
just
be.
fucking stand there and
Yeah.
take the dragon fire.
Yeah.
The only credit to that idea that it can kill White Walkers is credited to one of the show episodes.
Yeah. Jon Snow uses Longclaw, which is this sword.
This is a podcast, dude. Yeah, so you have the prompts. You have the prop there.
That one was just for the Patreons.
That was just for the
Yeah.
Patreons. Patreons get to see the sword.
They also get to see Guy's nipples because he's not wearing a shirt right now.
You don't get to tell them that. This is me.
So you should sign up to our Patreon, guys.
He's lying, guys. Please, don't.
They get what they pay for, my guy.
This is an audio medium. Why are we doing this in an audio medium?
It's all right. I pulled my top up. That's what the joke was.
I
Do
can't
I have
wait.
to describe guys' nipples? for
No,
the
you
audio?
definitely don't.
What's the audio assisted or whatever it is?
Yeah. And so he pulled his top up, and he had a very hairy chest.
It's true. It's real. You've been real with that
Two
one.
little pepperonis on it.
I actually conditioned my chest hair.
Oh my God.
No.
Okay, we're going to go into the Doom. So, I have a quote that is for Matt.
Oh shit!
I
I'm not
love
ready.
that you aimed it for Matt, because I also have a quote that I'm giving to Matt in my next script. It's targeted.
Why do you guys hate me?
We don't hate you. We love you. And we love the way that you talk.
Okay. I feel attacked, but I don't know why I should be offended.
You shouldn't be.
I'm waiting for my Facebook to load.
So, this quote is snobby, stuck-up prince, basically.
Have you sent it?
Yep,
It's coming.
it's in your private message to you, and,
You DM'd it to
you've-
him. I don't get to see the quote.
and you've read it. So,
It's not coming up on my screen.
it says you read it online.
There we go.
Oh, there we go.
Professionals.
I love technology, man.
Yeah.
Well, 400 years ago, the doom fell on Valyria. Mountains cracked, opened like eggs. Rivers and lakes boiled. Fountains of fire, ash smoke spewed from the ground so high, so hot, that even dragons burned in flight. How's that?
That was very good.
I feel like that voice, if you... Don't worry about it.
No, you're finishing that
No.
fucking thought. No.
Yep, now you're finishing that thought.
If you spank them, they'd say, "Oh no, Daddy, don't!
Oh no, sister,
Father,
don't!
not again! I've been a very good boy."
Oh my god.
That is the energy of that character.
With all the incest, it might mean double meaning there.
Oh no! No!
Hey, for all of the weird uncle to nephew and niece fucking, sister to sister brother fucking, we never get parent to child fucking from Targaryens.
Well,
that's
thank
a step.
God.
That's
That's
a
a
step,
step
they
too
don't cross. Yeah.
I'm glad we're setting good boundaries on the Targaryens.
We definitely get weird uncle to niece relations that turns into marriage. But that's about as close to home as it gets.
I'm not going to make comment on how bad any of these things are. Incest, just whatever. Just continue.
What Guy means is incest is
No!
wincest.
Damn it!
Oh. So the plain and simple truth of the Doom, there's no brushing around it or fluffing it up. The peninsula just fucking exploded.
They TNT trapped their house.
That's what
Yep.
I said.
The 14 flames volcanoes, literally the tops of them exploded in a huge chain eruption around all 14 of them at once, and it just turned into one massive volcano, basically. The peninsula split so much that there is now a large body of water running through the middle of it that is known as the Smoking Sea. And that's it. End of story. Bye-bye. That is the Doom. The peninsula explodes, the Targaryens fall into the sea or are otherwise just vaporized, and no one survives. Not a single person from Valyria escapes the peninsula.
Bye-bye.
They are all dead.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. The only people to survive the Doom were families that were not living in the peninsula at that time. That is...
The ones who survived were the ones who weren't there.
Yep. Which
Great.
leaves us with a couple families that I mentioned last time, such as Valyrion and another one that I've forgotten off the top of my head. But Valyrions are the main ones because they were maritime people that were off in other places at the time, so they survived. The Targaryens survived because they'd left old Valyria for seeing this Doom, supposedly. And a singular dragon lord, the only other person with a dragon that survived for a significant period of time, was a lord named Orion. Don't know his last name, but his name was Orion, and he was a dragon lord who survived, and we'll get to him.
Ooh, okay.
But everyone else that survived or escaped with dragons didn't survive long after. They fell to other infighting or other people took them down, because, as we'll get into, Essos and the previous, very similar to the Roman Empire once Rome fell, it fell to complete chaos, and we'll get to that today. And... is it all as simple as that, why it exploded? Yes and no. Simple truth is, a small family left, and 12 years later, the whole thing erupted. But what caused the eruption? Many would believe that the Doom was a natural event, but there are many theories.
Oh, yeah. Also, a kill ratio of 100% is rare in any tragedy.
It's insane.
That is an insane kill ratio.
Yep.
Let me tell you about the Doom Boy. Terrible event. You'd never heard the likes of it.
Were you there?
No.
Oh.
You want to know what happened?
Yeah.
Exploded.
Oh.
Yep.
The whole thing exploded.
So this,
How
I'm
do
going
you
to
know
send
that?
you...
Everyone died.
How do you know that?
I didn't.
I'm going to send you a quote,
How
guys.
does anyone know that?
Send me a quote.
This is the best. Just give us a slightly tragic, wise voice for this. This is the simplest.
Tragic
This is
wise.
the best. This is just the description of the Doom.
In hours, the greatest city in history became history.
Yep. The whole thing happened over not even a single day.
You're shaking your head for
Greatest empire that this world had and will ever see, most likely, with great mages, dragon lords, thousands of dragons, you name it. Couple of hours, all gone.
I mean, it's a neater explanation than like Rome's collapse, where it's like Rome's collapse was because of various factions.
Yeah.
This, it's just like Rome, not anymore.
What if we set
Gone.
off a nuke under Rome? Is basically the what if here.
I was watching a video the other day about like why humanity like fantasizes about what they called like the big monster end kind of thing. Whereas they talked about like how it's much more clean and more understandable that and much more like impersonal for like one big thing just to take out either civilization or that or like everyone. Like it's so much easier to accept just one big event go boop, everyone dead. Except
Rather
like,
than in the simple reality where it's actually normally a lot of small events over a
over
long, long time.
hundreds of
Yeah,
years.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is, I think, really interesting. And it happens a lot in fiction of just like, oh, and they all died.
Big rock.
Exactly.
That's what happened to the dinosaurs. It's real.
Yeah,
Well, that's what they
fiction,
want us to
sorry.
believe.
Yeah, really
Yeah.
in fiction, like the dinosaurs.
I mean, if you want to get into it,
Actually, it could have been volcanoes. There's that theory
it
that
was a big rock. Don't
was
talk to me about
volcanoes.
it. Don't talk to me about it.
Okay.
Well, we're going to start getting into some of the theories about
I'm
the
a
Doom.
big rock believer.
it was actually the Doom Valyria that killed the dinosaurs.
So, the first big theory. So, I'm going to tell you the theories, and then I'm going to tell you a curveball, and then I want to hear your thoughts, and then I'm going to say a theory that I kind of came to / stumbled across, and then my explanation, my further taking that theory a step further. Okay?
Sure, you lost me halfway through. I think my
I
brain
lost
just
you
turned
at.
off.
I'm gonna say a theory.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah.
This train's already at speed. I can't get off.
So
When I hear a
the-
theory, I've got to hear a game theory.
the first theory is it was a heavy quote unquote natural magical event. Anyone that knows anything about the Game of Thrones world, and I've said it a bunch of times, it is the world of A Song of Ice and Fire.
Uh-huh.
The entire show and the main series that we're looking at deals with winter, it deals with ice. There is the freezing cold north, there's these undead creatures from the north, there's the long night of winter coming. The whole world turns to like winters that last centuries. That's a big theme of the show and the books. And there's like the ice demons that come down from the north. That is ice. And we see fire be the dragons and the Valyrians. And counteracting this, Old Valyria and the land of it, the Freehold, is often referred to as the lands of the long summer. As opposed to the north and the Iceland where the demons are, that is referred to as the lands of always winter. Very similar names for two polar opposite points of the world.
Yeah.
The
We haven't
north,
really seen the top of the north.
exactly.
Kind of goes off the map.
Exactly. We also know that in these lands of always winter, there is a big magical event coming, the Long Night, which is basically a winter that will come and sweep down from the north, and it will basically turn the whole land and the whole world into a winter that lasts for 100 years.
It's very sexual, this universe.
Mhm.
The long north is coming.
God. So that's
Have you listened to a word he's been saying?
Well, obviously.
You're just hearing the words. I don't think you're hearing the
Yeah.
meaning.
so that is, therefore, we could maybe extrapolate that if there is a big magical sort of natural but magical event that's like an inevitable, it's coming from the icy north, maybe the lands of always summer have an explosive fiery event that's a natural causing phenomenon that's just going to happen. And who knows, maybe in another 1,000 years, those volcanoes are destined to erupt again. I don't know. Maybe that's the curse of those lands, as opposed to the north has its ice thing. That would fit the theme of the Song of Ice and Fire. You know, you've got the two extremes, you've got these two terrible things. It's a theory.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to imagine the Valyria Islands getting smaller and smaller after it keeps exploding.
Well, you know, if it's like enough, it's long enough in between that maybe they come back together. I don't know.
I mean, yeah, volcanoes do make
Reform
islands.
land
Make
masses, yeah.
islands.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
But I think it's interesting. I also think that George, the author, talks about a lot in interviews about how the theme of A Song of Ice and Fire isn't always just about this big natural thing. We have to fight against this big natural thing that's coming to end us.
Yeah.
It's very much about the human heart in conflict with itself.
100%.
Right? And I think one really important part, and I'm sure you'll get into this soon, but I think these natural events are interesting, but I think there was always a level of what did humans do to cause this? It's not just it's totally natural and we then either we could have stopped it or we could have prevented it, or what did our events do to cause it? I think that's a lot happens in George's. So it takes
100%.
Puts the agency in the characters.
It is.
Yeah.
And that brings us into the second theory.
Mhm.
And that is the classic theory of they delved too greedily and too deep.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So this big theory is to suggest that it was caused by mining and delving the Valyrians did into the 14 Flames. As you remember from last time, they were always sending slaves by the tens of thousands into the depths of these mountain ranges. They were digging up fucking tank loads of gold and other sorts of minerals, and they were just digging further and further and further down. They were, while doing that digging, they would regularly have to close off tunnels due to hitting lava, fumes, disturbing a big fire creature. It would be very easy to imagine that they simply went too far, and it triggered a chain reaction in the volcanoes, and this massive range. Set one off, that sets all of them off, who knows? I mean, there's that. Have you guys seen that clip? I remember it going around Instagram a bit where some lads were like in Iceland, I'm pretty sure, and they filmed themselves like throwing a small pebble into an inactive volcano, and it literally like turned it into an erupting volcano.
I haven't seen that.
It's insane.
I think I know what you're
It's
talking
like
about.
just literally completely inactive. They throw a pebble, it goes down, and then you start to see light coming through the tiny hole that it's made. And then they like show them having to retreat off the mountain. They're like, over the next few hours, it literally turns into a full-on erupting volcano.
That's insane.
I'll find the clip for you later. But yeah, who's to say that something like that didn't happen? They dug way too deep and they hit the wrong tunnel at the wrong time. That set off something. All 14 of them then activate.
Especially with all like the
Big
blood, the magic, the fire and blood magic they were doing into there.
Yep. But that's the thing. So my next point, it's even dumber than that. Not only was all this mining going on, but they had all sorts of special sorceries over the volcanoes that were both supposedly restraining them, but also harnessing their power. They were using them for fuck knows what kind of magical powers. This suddenly paints an image that makes it look a lot more like the mountains went boom because they fucked with them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, these Valerians are very good at fucking with things.
They are.
Fucking things.
So that makes it seem like a lot more of a closed and shut case, right? They got too greedy, they went too deep, they pushed too far.
You're selling it.
Ooh.
But then we get to the third theory, which
I
then
did it.
recontextualizes it again.
I blew them up.
Shut the fuck up. And that is idiotic political games. This fits somewhat into the same line of thinking as the last theory, that they took too much control, they got too greedy. But what else do we know about Valyrians? They loved their political games.
Sex.
You guys are unhinged.
Just keep
They
saying
loved
sex and it keeps
their
setting me off.
political games, and toward the end of their time, those games started to get bloody. Very bloody. What once may have been passive-aggressive arguments and political denouncements turned into a knife in an alleyway killing off a political rival. Maybe because we also see they are very competent and powerful mages. I mean, they've bound dragons to their will, right? Maybe they did have the volcanoes completely under control. Maybe everything was fine and they did know what they were doing. But what if too many of the wrong mages got stabbed? Could the Valyrians have been the stupidest they possibly could, and in their political frenzy, just happened to have killed too many of the wrong mages at the wrong time?
That's so funny if that's...
But
Oh, don't stab me! I'm holding up the city, I swear!
But that's what I mean, because it kind of makes you, like, yes.
Nice try, wise guy. Stab. And then you hear in the distance... No, you hear... Just like, oh, no.
Oh, shit.
Well, we gotta stab Jeff still. No, don't.
Yeah, perfect.
But yeah, you see what I mean? Because, like, the problem that I have with the simple theory of they delve too greedily and too deep, yes, it works, but also, like, hate them, love them, hate them, whatever you want about the Valyrians, you cannot deny they were very competent and they were very powerful.
Mhm.
It seems less likely to me that they would simply push it too far. I think that it feels more likely to me that they would have it all under control but fuck it up than they would try to push it too far.
That makes
But
sense.
but either one could work.
I think never underestimate the greed of people on top pushing everything too far.
Yeah, I've never heard of greed
is also true.
being a like motivating factor in any of the like plot lines in this sort of show. So I don't think greed has got anything to do with it.
Yeah, I think no one's...
You're very right.
Yeah, greed has never been a thing that would blind people
No,
to seeing the
no.
dangers of things.
Generally, that's not. Yeah, something.
It's not how greed works
No.
as a whole.
Yeah.
So this brings us to fourth theory, and this comes to the faceless assassins.
This is my favorite one.
This is a bit wild.
Mm-hmm.
So the faceless assassins, to bring Guy, who is our stand-in listener of not knowing anything about the show.
Tell us who the faceless assassins are, guy. Come on.
No. Don't put him on the spot. I'm explaining it to him.
He's so much funnier if he explains them.
So the faceless assassins are a group who use a form of glamoring. So remember I mentioned the magic in the world last time. Glamoring's like illusions, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Glamoring, they use it in a very literal sense where they put on different faces, and they kind of become the person whose face they've taken. And we see them throughout the book and show actually do physically take people's faces off, and
Yeah.
it becomes a part of the magic.
Okay, gotcha. That was confusing to me because you were saying literally take people's faces, but then
Yep.
glamoring. Okay, sure.
It's kind of a combination of both, where they literally take someone's face,
Uh-huh.
but we clearly see from the rest of the way their body and voice changes and the way that the face fits perfectly, it's more than simply putting a face mask on.
Yeah.
There's so much more magic at play.
How far does it go? Like, is it like full body?
Yeah.
Okay.
As far as we see.
Okay.
We see it be, we see plenty of examples where either the glamour has changed their full body or the show writers are really fucking dumb.
That's fair. I mean, possible.
Both are possible. I want to give them the benefit of the doubt that it was just glamoring magic.
I'm surprised that you still do after.
I try. But that is their thing. They're the Faceless Assassins because once you fully join their guild, you become no one.
Okay.
The Faceless Assassins do not have individual identities. They do not have individual names. They take on identities like you take on a new jacket.
I always like the theming of just like, we are nobody. You have no name when you join us. But like, how do you like functionally give jobs out to someone?
Well, that's the thing. They aren't like a for-profit guild. They're a mysterious group that are kind of tied to the religious idea of worshipping death.
They are a not-for-profit.
Yep. Like you don't necessarily pay someone of the Faceless Assassins as much as you like owe them favors and stuff. And the idea is that, I mean, we see an example in the show. I'm simplifying a lot of things here before you arc up, Matt, just to make it more approachable for Guy.
Okay.
For sure.
And what Guy is standing in for. We see the idea of only a life can pay for a life be a core theme of them. So when a character saves a member of the Faceless Assassins,
Free assassination. You get a little ticket.
that is it. He
Cool.
says the character actually saves 3 people from dying, including the assassin. And he says, you took 3 people from the god of death. I will now take 3 people of your choosing because things must be kept equal. And that is a strong theme around this whole guild.
Do you have a choice in it? Like, if you save 3 people, are they like, you must repay the debt?
I mean, there doesn't seem to be any pushing factor behind it has to happen now.
Okay.
And like in theory, this character could have sat on the choice of who to kill for a while.
Gotcha. Okay. No, I was making sure because I can imagine someone like totally good and innocent just doing it and then being like, you have to kill 3 more people. They'd be like,
It's less of a you must and more of a this I am now bound to carry out your will if you command it of me is more the idea.
That makes sense.
It's
Sure.
so much in the fact that, like, in the show, I'm guessing in the book as well, the character who gets this debt gives the person their own name.
Okay.
And says, don't do that, I'll have to kill myself.
Nice.
Yeah.
And don't joke around like that shit. Please
Yeah.
unname me, please.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay, well, you do a favor for me and I'll unname you.
That's so funny.
So that's a thing Matt's touched on there. They do take names, the Faceless Assassins, but because they've taken an identity by putting on a face.
They are that person.
They are that person. They are literally like almost like a shapeshifter level of fully become that personality and becoming that persona. And then when they're done with it, they'll take off the face, put on a new one. That's their new personality.
Okay, but they always have someone else's face on. Is there like a default like no face thing? Are they like black cloak?
We have yet to see it.
How cool.
And we don't know what they originally look like. That's the thing. Like a lot of the assassins, we don't know if it's the same person every time or that they're just wearing that face when they're that person.
Okay, so they are more of a force than Gotcha.
Yeah, they're very spooky. When we even see an example in the show where someone like takes off a face and then goes, "But what's your real face?" and takes off like 3 other faces.
Yeah,
It
great
goes deep.
bit. Great
Yeah.
bit.
Yeah.
Also, they kill the person, and then they're like, then someone just stands up, and there's the other person. They're them again.
Yeah.
because like that.
They're just wearing the same face.
Same face.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah,
That's
it's
fun.
just pretty spooky. Which also implies that they don't just harvest your face, but once they take someone's face, they presumably make a copy of it somehow.
Yeah,
Because we see the same face appear a few
there are a
times.
lot of the same faces. A lot.
Yeah.
So
But anyway, the point is they're a mysterious organization, and their origins come from the slave pits of Old Valyria.
I was wondering what the fuck these guys had to do with
Yep.
anything.
We're getting there. And in the show, they are based out of the city of Bravos, which is one of those free cities I mentioned that came under the whole freehold of Valyria.
Yep.
Bravos in particular is formed by a lot of escaped slaves from Valyria, and it basically becomes a big city after the Doom. A lot of slaves that are kind of left in, not so much exile, but like they're on their way to Valyria, or they're in other cities on their way to be sent to Valyria. They just escape once the Empire collapses, and a lot of them group up in Bravos, and that's what turns it into a big city.
So more in limbo than anything.
Exactly right, yeah. And then the Faceless Assassins in the show and book, there is an individual who has a name in the show, but in the book is simply called the Kindly Man.
Very
We'll
nice.
go over the book version 'cause I think that sounds more fun. And I will send Guy this quote.
Woohoo, 2 in a row.
And then the next one will be for Matt.
No, the next one's
Give
for me
us
as well.
a
Give me
mis-
all of them.
I've just described this whole order, Guy. This whole
Yes.
mysterious order. You can give a voice that you think fits based on the description I've given.
You got this.
You can't give me that sort of... Oh, restrain the goofy. Restrain the goofy. I have to rein the bit in. Now... No, okay.
So this is this kindly man talking to Arya Stark, a character from the show/book, and she's in the process of trying to join this group of assassins.
Oh, well, we first took root in Valyria, amongst the wretched slaves who toiled in the deep mines beneath the 14 flames.
Fantastic. And this man in this conversation goes on to say that the slaves suffered so much in these mines that they wished for death. The first faceless men came about by going around and giving the gift of death to a slave.
Nice.
And they went on from there, and they very much saw it as a gift because of the conditions and the fucked up life these slaves had. So many of them were so desperate for death that the assassins kind of separated themselves from the slaves and the Valyrians, living in secret, and they would go around. They weren't just recklessly killing slaves, but people that were absolutely certain of wanting to end their life, they killed them.
Damn.
Yep, it's really fucked up.
Yeah.
But also the whole slavery thing's beyond fucked up, so you know, pick your poison, I guess.
I definitely think slavery is worse.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And then the interesting thing, and this is where the theory comes from. I'm going to send this quote to you, Matt.
Yes, I know this one.
Arya.
What's the next question?
Arya then says, "That's silly. Why?" This isn't what she actually says in the quote. It's just the kind of vibe.
Yeah.
"That's silly. Why would you go around killing poor slaves? Why not just kill the slavers instead?"
Mm-hmm.
And this is what the kindly man says in response to that.
Yes. Again, this is why it's my favorite theory. Oh, he would bring the gift to them as well. But that is a tale for another day. One best shared with no one.
Once again, where no one is referring to an official member of the Faceless Assassins, whereas Arya is still Arya. She has not become no
It's
one yet.
capitalized no one.
Yeah. So the theory then comes from, what if the Faceless Assassins somehow caused the Doom? What if they struck down the right mages at the right time? They knew who to kill to set off the chain reaction. This would then also give a really good reason as to how the Faceless Assassins were able to escape this explosion when no one else could have. When literal dragon riders are unable to escape, but Faceless Assassins who are normally based down in the mines are able to get their order out of there.
That makes sense.
But there is another theory as well.
Can I add something to that theory
yeah.
as well that I've heard?
Sure. I'm
There's
still talking about it, but yeah.
sorry?
I'm still talking about it.
Oh, you're
but
still talking the same theory?
yeah, but go.
I think you might be talking about this later, but there's also the words that like it's the Lannister goal.
Yep, shut the fuck up.
Go.
Shut the fuck up.
Sorry, I'm stealing his thunder.
Yep.
Your thunder is mine.
Yep.
So much beef going on here about shit that I do not understand.
Are you following so far, by the way?
I'm fine.
Do you have
Like,
any questions? Which like, hold.
we're still like fucking 20 minutes ago. I was told that Valyria exploded, and I've just gotten like 5 different explanations for why it might have happened. So I'm still riding.
That's fine. You're exactly where I want you to be right now, guy.
I want Guy to make up his own theory.
There is also a theory that
I'm cooking. Don't worry.
because if the Faceless Assassins caused it somehow, that's cool. That's interesting. How did they kill it? How did they cause it? Did they kill particular people at the right time? Maybe. possible. That implies a very intimate knowledge of the mages, the families, and implies they were able to kill some very powerful people and a lot of them. A little bit crazy.
There's one thing getting to slaves and killing them in a mine.
Yep.
Another thing is
Literal dragon lords who would presumably be scattered throughout in a massive empire and city. Anyway, so there is another theory.
No one could do it.
This is true. No one could do it. There is another theory,
I
which
feel babied.
at first I
love that.
kind of hated it, but the more I thought about it, the more I'm like, it's actually kind of interesting and creative.
Mm-hmm.
And it is to do with dragon eggs.
Oh.
Dragon eggs have been shown to have incredibly and terribly explosive reactions to heat. There is an event in the canon of the world called the Tragedy at Summerhall, which happens in Westeros when a distant Targaryen tries to hatch some dragon eggs, and instead it creates a fire so strong and powerful that it literally ruined a castle. And that was from like 3 or 4 eggs. What if the assassins instead dropped an entire clutch of dragon eggs into a volcano? What kind of reaction would that cause?
Yeah, for sure. But what if? Big bomb.
But what if egg in volcano?
What if I
Boom.
drop egg in volcano?
Yeah, it's like I say,
We
I
got
kind
nuke.
of, I kind of hate it, but then the more I think about it, I'm like, it's kind of wild for them to also be like, the Valyrian source of power is the dragons. What if we literally use the dragons' eggs to explode their empire? It's kind of epic.
All I can think about is all those Mythbuster episodes where they had to detonate something from a distance and they got like the string holding it back. Just have the dragon eggs rigged above all the volcanoes, like 3, 2, 1.
but they're like miles away as well. It's just a really long string.
Oh, it would have involved some definitely dead faceless assassins.
Nah,
but-
it's a really long string.
Yeah, but it's
Mythbusters, don't worry about it.
it is interesting. Now, the last theory I'm going to get to before I throw over to you guys,
So we can tell you the correct ones, yeah.
and
Because
I
they're
want
right.
to hear some thoughts, and then I may cut you off though, depending which direction you go, because I then want to posit a theory that is pretty popular online, and then I want to say my thing that takes the next step further. And this is the prophecy curveball, and is to do with Lannister Gold, who are one of the great houses in Game of Thrones, and they exist at the time of Old Valyria. There is a quote from the Westerlands in a book called The World of Ice and Fire that says, I get to do this quote, the Freeholders' sorcerers foretold that the gold of Casterly Rock would destroy them. Casterly Rock being a gold-rich capital of House Lannister. So Lannister Gold, basically. We know for certain that House Lannister was the only house in all of Westeros, and presumably the rest of the world, who never had dealings with Old Valyria in trade. For some reason, Valyria didn't want to touch their gold. Presumably because of this prophecy. Because it's weird, because the one house that's famed for its gold mines, and Valyria, the people that are like doing all of this shit mining volcanoes to get gold, and they're not going near it. Interesting.
They wouldn't give. They really wanted the sword, the Lannisters, and they wouldn't give it to them. It's
The
so-
Lannisters.
it's
I'm
so
getting.
mean.
I'm getting to that.
It's so mean though.
The Lannisters were desperate for Valyrian steel sword because, as I mentioned at the start, all the other houses of Westeros were getting their cool sword from lots of gold. Lannisters kept going, "Can we have a sword?" And then
No.
the Valyrians were like, "No,
You get no cool sword for you.
no sword, no sword."
It was they're so powerful. They couldn't even like buy a sword for someone else.
Yep.
They're like, no. If you do that, we will not trade with you either.
Yep, exactly.
No.
And then, so they, despite getting offered insane amounts of gold, they say no. We then find out that not long before the time of the Doom, within like 50 years or so, before it all happens, we find out that a sword was sold to House Lannister named Bright Raw. It was bought with Lannister gold. Bucket loads of it. To quote the same book from above, I think it's the same book. It was bought with enough gold to buy an army. And then less than a century later, the Doom happens. Maybe the prophecy was a warning of a curse, or something else happened. Who knows? So, before I get into a theory that is pretty popular online, and I mean, look, I got to the same conclusion, but I'd feel shit talking about it and not saying a YouTuber named AltShiftX, who has a lot of very fun Game of Thrones videos. He talks about this theory. Worth mentioning him.
He's amazing.
What do
I
you
love
think
him.
of these individual theories?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a fan of most. I don't know if like assassin guild that's like we deal in favors doesn't feel like the type of group to be like, hey, fuck this entire nation. I get that they have the power to, but like, meh. I'm liking the dug too deep part, specifically because the original theory that I had when you said come up with some, the one that popped into my head is How to Train Your Dragon, where underground, big dragon, disturbed, explosion.
Mhm.
There's lots of fire creatures and gold. You know what dragons got? Lots of gold. That's down in there. Maybe it's some sort of big undead fucking dragon. The other option
Why
that
does he have to be undead?
because he's fucking buried.
That's fair.
I actually, honestly, I hadn't even like touched on this. I actually really like that as a theory for some things that I'm going to talk about later. So I
Excellent.
like it. Keep.
Well, there are known to be like huge ice dragons, aren't there?
Then why no big fire dragon?
This is true. This is true.
I'm cooking. Second option, God smote them because of their awful sins.
I do like that as well. You committed enough incest for God to
Be
hit
gone.
you. Yeah. There is a number that once this many incestuous relationships happen, God smites you.
How many incest is too much incest? I think there is a reason why it is that the the face assassins do favors, but they do also do gold. You can buy a faceless assassin. So like they still do like rich gold stuff. So like I don't know. But also from what I know, at least from what I know, and the face assassins were originally slaves in this empire. So you that's kind of why they want to kill them. They're like, we were fucking slaves here.
I get that, but also like I don't know. Maybe
It does
it's
feel
different
very
emotion.
big.
It
I get what
feels
you mean.
dramatic for
Yeah, that's fair. It is a big jump from anything they've ever done.
Yeah.
To be fair.
Correct.
The biggest thing they've ever done is like maybe kill like a lord or anything.
Yeah, correct.
Like
If
that.
the things
Or-
that they've done is
or prince.
murdering, then annihilating an entire peninsula seems like a big.
would be a big step
Yeah.
up, to be fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
like the
might,
dragon,
because I think
actually.
Matt's going to probably spoil things if I let him talk. So I might just stick with what guys said.
Yep.
Just because this is a world that you know stuff about as well.
You stop me talking.
Yeah, I agree. So this leads into the theory that is popular online, but you may kind of be able to start putting together in your head. What if all of these theories are right, apart from the first one about the natural stuff? What if it is all of them tied into one? What if the idea of them delving too greedily then is what results in sorcerers having to put so many spells over the mountains to keep them restrained? They keep digging, which means they need more sorcerers keeping it balanced. They can maintain the balance, but it's risky because you've got these sorcerers who are very important to keeping it restrained. Then what if political games happen, idiotic political games where people want to murder different political opponents, but how do they pay for this? We just got an army, enough gold to buy an army from the House Lannister gold. So what if the House Lannister gold is what paid the faceless assassins to then kill people?
Okay. We're kind of combining.
That's the
We're
theory
kinda
that combines
cooking.
everything.
I will say, the only thing I'll asterisk on when you asked about the previous things, I always, like, whenever people talk about, like, oh, it happened because it's prophesized, I'm like, I don't ever fuck with that. There is, like, prophecy and foreseeing as, like, a story concept is fine, but I still think that you should have a physical reason why it happened.
Exactly
like,
right,
someone
yeah.
still, even if it's someone tripping over a mop bucket and hitting the nuke switch, that's fine. But some physical person was foretold to do it. It wasn't the prophecy that did it.
100%,
You can't
yeah.
just hand wave that shit.
Also,
Which-
the kind of like prophecy was like trying to like deviate a prophecy. You actually ends up. What is it like the quote is like sometime in like Kung Fu Panda? Sometimes
Yeah,
you
trying
find-
to fight prophecy creates.
Yeah,
like,
you find your
enables it,
destiny
yeah.
on the path to start to prevent it.
Yeah. But then I would like to take it a step further, which I'm surprised it's not talked about more online because it seems really, like, I don't say really obvious, but it seems like a really natural conclusion here.
Yeah.
House Targaryen. They left 12 years ago. We know that they, after leaving, became really close with Westeros and started to have interest in Westeros. And we also don't know who sold the sword Bright Raw to the Lannisters. What if House Targaryen, as a very distant scheme to become the last Valyrians and go from being a small fish in the big pond to being the biggest fish in the rest of the world, they went and sold Bright Raw to the Lannisters. They got all of the gold. They paid all of the assassins. That enabled the assassins to do the biggest thing they've ever done, boom, no more Valyria.
Exactly. It answers your question that like why would the Face Lesson do this big thing?
Yeah.
Because they have a particular benefactor, and that is just the Targaryens on their own with this insane amount of gold going, this is what we want you to do.
That makes sense. That checks.
It's definitely my belief as to what
I
happened.
like the idea that. Wait, so that means they plan to leave because the Bright Wall was sold before they left.
Uh-huh.
But there was a prophecy that was something to do with them that their
All
daughter
that
saw.
we- Well, that's the public reason they said. They said, my daughter had a dream of a great doom, and I've decided to listen to it.
I mean, to be fair, if I was going to enact a scheme to nuke an entire country, selling all my assets and having to move as part of like the necessity of that, if you want a cover story being like, my daughter's seen a prophecy, guys, watch out, get out of here, and then leaving and everyone else being like, if the place then explodes, you can't be like, you could be like, you guys did it, but it's more likely for them to be like, whoa, prophecy.
Exactly.
Thank God you
Especially,
got out of there.
Correct. Yeah,
especially with,
it gives you deniability.
yeah, exactly. Because, it's not like we aren't dealing with a people who are very natural and powerful sorcerers. You've got sorcerers doing blood magic and binding magic and pyromancy. Saying my daughter is a dreamer is not... It's not an impossible thing. It's not like you're in the modern day and age and going, I had a terrible premonition, you know?
What do you mean? My favorite sources of old ancient histories is,
Premonition, yeah.
what source gave that? It came to me in a dream.
Yeah. Don't fucking Google sex magic.
What do you find?
So there are certainly another thing that kind of pointed me in this direction. One of the sources that you can get more information about Old Valyria, and one of the places that I got a lot of information for. There's some like special edition to the. I think it was made for the Game of Thrones Blu-ray box sets at some point. That's like this, but you can find it online in different places. That's like an animation, really well made by HBO animation, showing the history of the world with different real actors from the show doing like in-character voiceovers of it. So it's not just like a voiceover saying, this is the history. It's like it's like that character is sitting down and telling you about history. So you get a lot of like that person's bias on there as well.
That's kind of fun.
It's really fun. And the character that does all the stuff of Valyria is a douchebag from the show named Viserys Targaryen, who's like a
crazy.
fucked up, power-hungry, evil dude who's very like high and mighty. Targaryens are the best. He talks. The thing that kind of was a big red flag for me, his bias is, I don't even believe that dream was real. I reckon they just had a political loss and didn't want to admit to the shame. But that clearly means that there are people around that do believe the dream couldn't have been real. Therefore, maybe it just was a plan. Who sold the sword to the Lannisters, for example? We don't know. I've had a look into it. It's official that it is not confirmed who... It's deliberately left not confirmed who sold the sword to the Lannisters,
I love
right?
deliberately unconfirmed shit.
Exactly,
It's
exactly.
So annoying.
I mean, like, dragon dreams are real, but they've been known to be really unreliable.
Exactly.
And even if, like...
And a lot of the time, they become things where people claim these different dreams, but then they kind of make the dream come true anyway. So, like, it's like, okay, did you do all of these things? Did you go around conquering this kingdom to make it real because you saw it in a dream? Or did it just, you decided you want to do it and then you went and did it?
Yeah, like imagine like if these dreams were prophetic, you saw yourself conquering the world and you're like, damn, I can do it. So you did it. You know?
Exactly.
Like, which one actually solved anything? You know?
Exactly.
Yeah, and like this dream thing, and yes, the dream was probably after they sold the Lannister that gold, to be fair, but it could have been a thing where it's like, damn, we left Valyria like 14 years ago. Shit, nothing's happening. The doom isn't coming, man.
Could also be the case.
We have a lot of gold. Hey guys, could you like kill those people?
I mean, that's also a thing. Because
That is-
the big problem that I have with the Faceless Assassin
Makes us look
theory
bad.
is I think that they would definitely be capable of killing those people, but it implies a very, very, very intimate knowledge of those mages and being able to kill all of the right ones at the right time to set it off. Because you have to assume that they wouldn't be stupid enough to go, over the last 2 to 3 months, particular mages have started dying. We should watch out for that. You have to assume that it happened in a tight enough window to, yeah.
Or who would have access to dragon eggs to give them, if we want to go
That
with the
is
dragon egg explosion
exactly.
theory.
Where did they get the dragon eggs?
Where they get dragon eggs?
mhm.
Whoa! What do they leave? What do they leave with? A batch of dragon eggs?
Yep. So I think it ties up really well to be in that direction, personally. But whatever the case, the greatest empire in the world, and the greatest one that it has ever and will ever see, was finished. And what would follow would be nightmares and chaos. Which brings us to the Century of Blood.
Ah, that sounds like a good time.
Sounds
It's a great time.
like a good time.
Good
It is a
time.
fantastic time. The collapse of Valyria plunged Essos into chaos for a century. The power vacuum led to fierce struggles. However, we're going to get to a character that I mentioned before, and that is Orion.
Sex
who was
god.
Sex god. He was a very powerful and politically important dragon lord visiting the free city of Qohor. After the Doom, he went, everyone I ever knew and loved is dead, and my whole family is dead, and everyone's gone, and I have the last great dragon. And then he did the only thing natural, and named himself the first emperor of Valyria
Fuck yeah!
from the city of Qohor. And he then spent, I think, about a decade stabilizing the city of Qohor when the rest of the freehold and the rest of the empire was falling to shit and crumbling. He became a political figure and unified and became an emperor in this one city, brought it all together, and then he spent this decade as well amassing a massive army of about 30,000. And he decided that he was going to take his army and he was going to reclaim Valyria. So then he mounted atop his dragon, got all of his armies atop their ships, sailed and flew to Valyria, and neither he nor his forces were ever seen again. Not a single person of 30,000 came back.
Did they arrive? Wait, they arrived when the Doom.
No. So the Doom happened. He then spent a decade in this city, getting it together.
Yeah.
And then after this decade, he went, right, we're going to go reclaim the motherland. And no one came back.
He was doing so well. Just don't go back. Just don't.
Yep.
You're doing so well.
What's the point?
You don't
there's
need
nothing
this,
there.
You don't need this mess. Just conquer the rest of Essos if you really want an empire. I like the idea of being an emperor of one city, though. That's kind of funny.
Yeah. Well, he was kind of hoping to reclaim the whole empire. That's why he wanted... Because the thing you have to bear in mind, Valyria is not simply a place, it's knowledge. They lost everything. They lost...
It's knowledge.
Dragon eggs, they lost dragons, they lost the secrets of their magic, they lost the secrets of Valyrian steel, they lost the secrets of their entire construction. They lost all of it.
Again, it's knowledge, but the knowledge isn't there anymore. It's fucking gone.
Well, he doesn't know
If
that.
I stand in the middle of the volcanoes and pray, the ancestors will impart upon me these answers.
So,
Well, I think you have to bear in mind, it's not like the entire peninsula sank, and it's a massive city spread across the peninsula. All you need to find is one place that's not been completely... Because, I mean, it's still an island. It's not like it's sunk.
what is the
after
explanation why everyone keeps dying when they go there?
We'll get to that.
Hot.
Okay. It's
we'll
hot.
get to that.
It's just really... Everyone steps in there and
What
it gets
the
really
fuck
hot.
is the ocean that's through the middle called?
The Smoking Sea.
If I saw a sea that was smoking, the only answer for that is either there's underwater thermal vents that are possibly putting out things like sulfur or things like gases that'll just fuck you up, or the ocean itself is hot enough to cook you.
It could just be really foggy.
Anyway.
There's a. Do you remember when we used to go on a scout camp to that lake that was being used by the?
That's
coal
because there was a
plant?
fucking power plant
There
on
was
the side of the goddamn lake.
There was a coal power plant which made the lake warm.
It was a hydroelectric plant.
Was
used,
it?
Yes.
Yeah, it wasn't cold.
I thought it was coal.
It was snowy hydro. No, it wasn't snowy hydro.
Anyway,
the
I'm going
fog
to
was
keep...
crazy.
Yeah,
That's
I'm
what
going
I'm
to keep moving us along.
Okay.
Volantis, the next strongest city of the Free Cities, about another couple decades after Orion disappeared and Qohor fell apart, Volantis decided that they were the natural descendant, to Valyria's empire.
They
Meanwhile,
both start with V.
Yep. Meanwhile, a faction known as the Dothraki swept out of the east and began ravaging towns and cities and basically just tearing apart what was left of the empire. So that brings us to the next part of the Century of Blood, and that is war amongst Valyria's children. The children were the cities of Volantis, Pentos, Qohor, Lys, Myr, Tyrosh, Norvos, Lorath, and finally Bravos.
So many.
These are the big cities that anyone that has watches, reads anything of the show, you will hear these city names thrown around a lot and referred to as the Free Cities, and that's because they still maintain a little bit of the culture of Valyria. But not really. So as Valyria's first daughter, Volantis saw itself as the rightful heir, and the aggressive Volantine nobles, known as the Tigers, decided to wage war on the rest of the other cities.
Gonor Tigers.
Uh-huh.
Go Tigers.
They immediately took control of Lys and Myr, and then began dominating the southern part of Royn, which was a large part of the continent, for the next 2 generations. However, resistance grew when Volantis attempted to seize Tyrosh. All of the other free cities rebelled against Volantis. Pentos aided Tyrosh, while Myr and Lys, the 2 they'd already conquered, just took up a revolt against the people that had oppressed them. Another pair of the cities, Qohor and Norvos, formed an alliance and just took out Volantis' fleet. Braavos then joined the fray, sending 100 ships to Lys to help lift the occupation there. Someone from Westeros, one of the early ancestors of Baratheons, known as the Storm King, defeated a large Valentine army. So he came over from Westeros and joined this conflict, because why the fuck not? Even House Targaryen joined this fray, and they made an alliance with Pentos, a young Targaryen riding a big black dragon, and he just took down an entire Volantine fleet on his own.
God damn.
Yep. So basically, Volantis went, "We're in charge now," and the rest of the world went, "Like hell you are."
Nah. We good. Nah, dog, this ain't it.
Eventually, after Volantis just fell apart, a second political faction, known as the Elephants, took control of Volantis. Unlike the war-hungry Tigers, the Elephants preferred trade and peace. Quite a popular prospect.
I was gonna say, I was so ready for you to say, and they wanted war as well. It's like, you saw the last guys, right?
Yeah.
You saw the last guys.
I wonder how difficult it was to get voted in. I don't know.
There's the political party just being like, we believe we should reuptake this war, renew our resources into it. Other parties just like, actually, guys, didn't work. We're cool with
What
that.
about trade?
What about trade? What if we just chill for a little bit?
And
Or
after
just
nearly
don't.
spending, because this is like the large part of the Century of Blood that becomes this massive war of Volantis. So after nearly a full century of dominance, the Tigers were ousted, and since then, for the 400 years between now and the show, the Elephants have pretty much ruled Volantis. However, the Century of Blood left Volantis bankrupt, depopulated, and broken. The disputed lands, which was the free lands in between all of these different free cities, which was once fertile, was left as just battlefields of free companies of mercenaries who were constantly getting paid off by different free cities to fuck with the other free cities. It is a fucked area. But it's great for people that want to make a name for themselves as a sellsword, which we see a lot in the show.
We love a lot of localized little countries that have no unifying force over the top and just shenanigans.
Yep,
Country-sized shenanigans.
that is it. However, we mustn't forget about the Dothraki.
How could you?
And that brings us to the next part, and that is the rise of the Dothraki. So the Dothraki, for people that haven't really watched the show, read the books or anything, they are a very Mongolian Empire sort of themed group. Kind of a little bit. They take from a lot of different places. The strongest is arguably that, and they are a massive horse-worshipping horse nation, basically.
Fuck yeah, horse nation.
They're a bunch of horse girls.
They are a bunch of horse girls. No, they actually take a little bit of like inspiration from Native Americans as well, which is really interesting. A lot of like the hair-related stuff. But anyway, they're basically really skilled, lightly armored horse skirmishers. They just ride around in packs of like thousands of mounted people. They're very good horse archers, and they are very deadly mounted combatants. There's a quote in the show of like, Dothraki children can often ride a horse before they can walk,
That makes sense.
and they can fire a bow from horseback earlier than most people in other kingdoms can even look at a bow. So they are just like from birth thrown into the saddle and taught, this is what you do. You ride a horse and you shoot arrow from back of horse.
You are one with the horse.
Yes, exactly. And they were, in the time of the Valyrian Freehold, they were not able to grow. They were kept too much in the dark, too much under the thumb of this oppressive empire. Naturally, what's a bunch of mounted people going to do? Lightly armored people that wear no armor apart from furs and cloth. What are they going to do against one dragon, right?
I mean, arguably, I don't care what armor you're wearing. if I'm dragon, I cook.
Yeah.
But also, they also have been known to struggle probably against fully armored people.
That's
that
true.
makes sense.
Yes.
Yes.
And Valyria, I believe, had Valyrian steel armor.
Yeah. They,
Zam.
like, what do you do against that?
Yeah.
But then the Valyrian freehold disappeared, and not only that, but what was left of the empire was in no fit shape to stand against them as a unified front, and because of that, they swept in from the far east, and they just kept on going. They started just conquering and raiding and pillaging and destroying other towns in the far east away from all of the free cities. And then one group, a place called Sarnor, underestimated them and basically gave them the big inn that they needed. And they thought, we're smart. These guys are dumb horse savages. We're going to pay them a bunch of money and let them into our city and then use them to fight our wars for us. A Dothraki Carl, whose name was Mengo, took what they offered, went into their city, and then seized their lands and killed them. So now they had a big up. They had...
Something rings... Is that like something that actually happened?
It is... I think it's something that's happened a lot of times.
Knowing the history, yeah, that's having a fucked up.
Yeah.
I think there's one particular example I can't think of, though.
I'm trying to...
Yeah.
And then
I think I watched a history thing about it.
Carl Mengo's son, Carl Moro, then took over this massive Khalasar, which they call a big tribe of horses. Generally, the way that Dothraki operate is there'll be a Khalasar led by a Carl, and this Carl is just the best warrior. If anyone wants to challenge the Carl, they can beat him and become the new Carl. It's as simple as that. If your
you can't have an off day
Khalasar...
as a
King of
Carl.
the Hill.
You can't have an off day.
No, you can't. If your Khalasar bumps into another Khalasar, one thing will happen. Those two Carls will fight. One Carl will die. The Carl then walks away with a bigger Khalasar.
So it's like worm.io.
Yeah, pretty much. It is exactly like that. Yeah.
Do they ever have like split off, like little units of loot?
They do sometimes abandon their Carl, but it's very rare because normally they live in such respect and fear of the Carl that they wouldn't want
You'd
to do
have
that.
to, because some.
And
new
they
groups
also,
would join.
power is everything for the Dothraki. They want to be in the group that's going to see them get to raid and pillage and do God knows what to different cities. The best way to do that is to follow the strongest warlord, right?
That makes sense.
So why would they want to leave?
Yeah, it's like pirate law.
Yeah. If
If
they think that they could be better off than the current warlord, then they probably would just challenge him and kill him rather than leave.
Because then you get all the guys.
Sometimes you're inspired and you just want to start a startup. Okay, Jude.
yeah.
Let me start a startup. Of
Sure,
Carl.
I'm sure it does happen. But anyway, they then went around and destroyed another city that was quite large and enslaved its people. But this then sparked conflict between other cities, and basically over the next 12 years, all of the major cities in the Far East fell to chaos and destruction and fell apart. Basically, this whole part of the map.
I have a map
Just
up in front of me. There's
started
the big knobble of the Valerian Freehold, and then to the right of it, we've got a bunch of cities, and there's a little pokey thing
It's the scrotum.
The scrotum.
right
yeah.
next to the scrotum.
The scrotum exploded, though.
It's gone. Someone exploded the nuts.
Then, they continued conquering cities, and then that then renamed the central part of Essos. So basically, a majority of it here was renamed into the Dothraki Sea.
Oh, okay.
And then, after all of this, towards the end of the Century of Blood, they came to the free city of Qohor. So the one that we talked about before, that was one of the major free cities where Emperor Orion the Dragon Lord was for a while, and they fought against Volantis. Not doing so great, bit worse for wear. Then the Dothraki show up. First time that one of the big free cities has had the Dothraki show. They prepare by hiring a bunch of mercenaries, and key among them, they buy 3,000 unsullied soldiers from Slaver's Bay. Bit of a risky thing, because they're a new thing from Slaver's Bay, now that it's back to operating as Slaver's Bay, not under the thumb of the Valyrians. They're being sold as the greatest and most powerful soldiers you can buy.
Damn.
They buy 3,000 of them. However, the Dothraki reach Qohor before the Unsullied arrive and make a breach into the city's defenses. The Dothraki then come back the next day to sack Qohor, which they believe would be easy because they've basically gotten through. They just need to regroup and then attack. But instead, when they come back, they are met by the Unsullied. The Unsullied hold their ground through 18 charges, killing 2,400 Dothraki, including the Carl. The next day, the new Carl comes along, cuts his hair off, and surrenders to Qohor's city guard. And since then, Qohor has kept a consistent garrison of Unsullied soldiers.
Come now, boys! Number 15's the one!
That's
Charge
it.
again! Back in, boys!
I'm sure if we do it again, we'll get them.
You know what they say? 16th time's the try. I like that it's a new Carl every time. The Carl dies every time.
yeah. Then
Boys,
finally,
you
It gets to number 19, he's just like, listen, I know we've tried this a few times. I'm going to try something new. Let me just shaves his head. All right. We're good, actually. We're done with this one. Nice game. Well played.
So
Yes.
in Dothraki culture, the longer the hair is, the more like honor you are because you only cut your hair off when you're defeated.
Okay.
So that's why shaving the head off is a big thing.
Shaving your head off.
So if you see
is
someone with a
bad.
really long braid, they're like, "Oh, that guy's good."
Is it the ultimate dishonor to behead someone?
I don't fucking know.
yeah.
That's the
So
ultimate shave.
there is actually, we do actually see a thing in the show
A
where,
little off the top.
a lot off the top.
and this is kind of one of those things that I'm sure there's other cultures as well, but Native American culture is just one that I happen to know off the top of my head, where
Scalping.
scalping is a thing, and the Dothraki definitely do scalp people, but they aren't,
I've seen Inglourious
like,
Bastards.
they will, I don't want to use the word disfigure because it has really bad connotations, but they'll like do things, particular cutting things off of the body after death, which can be seen as really savage and barbaric. And I mean, especially like native tribes originally, when they were seen by like colonizers, and they were like, savages. But they're doing it for a very particular reason.
Right.
Like particular things as doing this will mean that you wander the afterlife blind, that sort of thing.
So
Dothraki-
disrespecting the...
Yeah, specifically, it is savage, it is gross, but they're doing it for a particular cultural reason. It's not just a matter of,
Ritual-
quick, cut his balls off. There's like particular reasons for it, you know?
Take his nuts!
Yeah. But yeah, Dothraki very much the same thing. I mean, there's a character in the show that when one of their loved ones is killed, their body is sent back with their head cut off, and they break down into tears. Not so much the fact that they've died, but the fact that their head's been cut off, and they start crying and saying, he will wander the afterlife headless and blind and suffer for eternity, and that sort of thing.
I do always worry about getting myself cremated, because like, what if sanctity of the body's a real thing, and I'm like, I awaken in the afterlife, like 10 minutes later, I'm on fire.
Well, would you rather like your body get eaten by worms?
Yes.
Okay. Do you
Slowly over like 10 years. At least then I get 10 years.
of being eaten by worms? in the
Yeah,
afterlife?
and at that point I get time to transfer into my heavenly body.
Is that how that works?
Yes, that's how my headcanon. Everyone's religion is their own, Matthew, and I made my own headcanon.
So we'll jump
Alright.
into
My
the
real
next part.
belief is that when you first die, you get a big Excel spreadsheet with every statistic of your life, and you can just filter by everything.
Cool.
How many times did someone nut to me?
Cool.
How many times
Yep, shut
did
the
I
fuck
get a
up.
haircut?
So we're moving on to the legacy of Old Valyria.
Okay. Can I for one second? You've been talking so much about cutting people's nuts off. Do you know why the Unsullied is called the Unsullied?
They got their nuts?
Take no dicks.
No dicks!
They are eunuchs.
Fucking eunuchs.
That's why they're so good at fighting.
I mean, yeah, not distracted.
That's the only
That is
reason.
literally the in-world They cut their balls off when they're a child, and then say that it means that they're focused and undistracted. We'll ignore the fact that it's going to do interesting things for their development through
It's
what would have
horrible.
been. Anyway,
Whatever.
but yeah, that's their
That makes
in-world
sense.
thing.
No,
Yeah.
thank you for letting me know.
In law, you're better at fighting without a cock.
I mean, is that true? Is one of the Unsullied the best fighter of all time, or are they?
In world, yes.
Wow, there you go. No dick.
Yep.
Cool. Continue.
You know what you must when you want to
Don't
become a
you
good
look
fighter.
at me like crotch, you fucking rat.
I know what I must do.
I'm dedicated to this podcasting business, but I'm not looking to be the best. I accept my state. I'm not looking.
I know what I have to do, but I don't know if I have the strength to do it. So, legacy of Old Valyria.
Legacy of Old Valyria.
Valyria has remained a smoking ruin for 4 centuries since the Doom to modern times. Even attempts to pass through it, much less resettle it, end in disaster, to the point where even the worst pirates are too afraid to sail near the smoking sea, apart from one person in the book, but I'm not going to talk about that. Ships rounding the peninsula often make sure to stay such a distance away because they believe that there are all sorts of demons and other dangers that haunt the region. The free cities often exile victims of advanced diseases, people that suffer from something called grayscale, which is just a disease in the world. They exile them to the Valyrian Peninsula, and a few of them manage to survive in the shadows of these ruins.
Damn.
But it's pretty fucked. But what happens there? What is going on? Why do people keep disappearing? There are 3 immediate examples of weird people just have weird things happen there. So as previously mentioned, Dragon Lord Orion tried to resettle with 30,000 soldiers. He took this many people and himself on a fucking massive dragon, and not a single one of them was ever seen or heard from again. Not a trace of them got back.
That's impressive.
That's pretty insane.
That's a pretty impressive fuck up.
Next, there was a Lannister named Tommen Lannister, who took his family's not that long ago acquired blade Bright Roar, thing they paid all that money for.
Oh no.
He brought the sword and an army and took off to Valyria
What could
because
possibly
he
go
thought, big empire collapse many decades ago. I want the treasures they must have left.
I appreciate the caveman voice because it's real for that.
Yep. And what do you think happened?
He fucking lost it.
None of them were ever seen again. Not
Nice.
Tommen, not the precious blade. And thus Lannisters were put back in the position of being the one house without a Valyrian steel sword.
Again, this is why they leave on the wall, because it's terrible. Whenever they pick it up, it's bad.
God damn it.
The most unsettling one of all, however, this is a little bit of a longer story. So there is a character named Arya Targaryen, who was a young princess forced into hiding after some succession infighting within her family. She bonded to the great dragon that survived from the time of old Valyria, named Balerion the Dread. He is the massive, famous dragon of House Targaryen. This dragon had been without a rider for quite some time and had been living as a wild dragon. Arya somehow managed to bond the dragon, and after bonding them, the 2 of them disappeared, and no one could ever find them. They were spotted escaping across the narrow sea. Arya and Balerion were missing for more than a year. During that time, her mother, atop her own dragon, looked around for her. No one could ever find them. But finally, they returned after a year to King's Landing, the capital, with a severely ill Arya clinging to the dragon's back. The dragon itself was also covered in all sorts of mysterious wounds that he was able to heal from. She, however, was almost unrecognizable. She was stick-thin, and whatever clothes she still wore were nothing more than tatters. Her hair was matted and a tangled mess. Her eyes were bloody. After speaking the words, "I nether," Arya collapsed. She was then carried to the Grand Maester Benifer by Sir Lucamore Strong of the Kingsguard. House Strong, House of Dragon fans, just saying. Benifer, the Grand Maester, treated Arya in his chambers with one other person, Septim Bath, who had been summoned to administer the final rites for the dying. Only the 2 of them witnessed her final hours. The Maester forbade all others, including the King and Queen, from entering and seeing the body. It was officially announced that Arya died for fever, which was only partially true. So Lucamore, the Kingsguard that carried her, did say that the princess's fever was so hot that he could feel it through the armor. He was, however, blocked. Forbade. Thank you. He was forbidden from ever speaking about that night again.
Right.
It was a big cover-up. She had blood in her eyes, and her body had, to quote the knight, something inside her, something moving. And that was at the point when the king forbade him from speaking of the princess ever again.
She fucked the dragon.
Benifer left no account, so the Grand Maester, he left no account of Arya's death. But the Septim, the priest that was in the room, he left some papers, which were discovered later on. Arya's fever was unlike anything that had ever been seen before. The Septim described her as burning with a red skin and having barely an ounce of flesh upon her bones, appearing gaunt and starved as a skeleton. Bath reported that swellings moved underneath the princess's skin, possibly searching for a way to escape, and causing her a great deal of pain. He wrote that I pray I shall soon forget some of the things she whispered, and that she often begged for death and spoke of the ruins of Valyria. That's how we knew that's where she ended up. It seemed to Barth as if Arya were cooking from within. Her flesh grew darker until it resembled pork cracklings. Smoke came from her mouth, nose, and her nether regions. Arya's eyes cooked within her skull until they burst. When the princess was lowered into a tub of ice, slimy, unspeakable things making horrible sounds emerged from underneath her skin, one as long as the septum's arm. But the creatures of heat and fire died from the cold of the ice. Yep. The origins of the creatures that lived inside Arya were unknown. Barth speculated that Balerion the Dread, not Arya, had chosen their destination, as likely he is the only living creature in the world that had known Valyria before it was destroyed in the Doom. So Balerion wanted to return home, where the accursed creatures, as those things found inside Arya, presumably now live. This pretty much puts us up to the point of the status quo of Essos, the Dothraki Sea, the free cities of constant infighting, and the old ruins that everyone is terrified of. We know nothing. I like the theory. My personal belief, and Guy actually, weirdly enough, expanded on it in a way that I hadn't really thought of. We know that there were thousands of dragons in Old Valyria when it exploded. And what we're told is that they all died in the Doom. What if the dragons that remained there were instead mutated and turned into some kind of terrifying, monstrous abominations? That kind of checks out. What's something that could kill a dragon lord, an ancient dragon, and 30,000 soldiers on boats? Thousands of mutated monstrous dragons.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Right?
And especially if the explosion wasn't just like straight explosion, but also like fire arcane magic. If it like imbued the creatures, the dragons, with like more fire. And
There are also like these fire worms were underneath. We knew these fire creatures lived underneath anyway, so this could be like a version of that. These
baby worms.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's also, pretty fucking messy.
It is terrifying. I think the scary thing about this is that Balerion came back injured.
Yeah.
Balerion, the single biggest dragon ever. Nothing hurts this fucking thing.
This is the dragon that, like, we talked about a bit last time, that's like insanely big.
Size of a city.
Size of a city, like single-handedly with his rider conquered all the Seven Kingdoms.
What can hurt this thing?
Yes. Quick question.
Yep.
Where does this take where is this event relative to the main series and House of the Dragon?
This would be about 250-ish years before the main series, and probably only 50 to 60 years before House of the Dragon.
Okay, sure.
Can I also ask a question about time?
Yeah.
How long before the Game of Thrones was the
Doom?
Doom.
The Doom was 400 years before the show.
And how long before the Game of Thrones did Valyria start?
Oh, we don't know.
Oh, okay.
Old Valyria was a thing for centuries.
Centuries at least.
It was old at the point that it blew up, and it blew up 100 years before House of the Dragon, so it's gotta be old.
It's gotta be old, but you were talking about the natural. I forgot to talk about it earlier, but you talked about the natural. So we know the Long Night happens every about 1,000 years.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
we know of.
Yeah.
It happened. Well, the last one happened 1,000 years ago.
Yeah.
So if you're talking about that natural thing, and maybe I don't know if Valeria's already been 1,000 years old. Or
Who knows?
Not.
Yeah. No, 100%.
It's interesting.
So that's There's some pretty fucked up things going on there. But the final thing we'll get to today,
Can I say it's very Bermuda Triangle.
it is very Bermuda Triangle. Yeah, 100%.
And one final thing as well about Big Dragon. I do appreciate the fact that you say did not have a rider. The Big Dragon, Balerion had no rider and lived as a wild dragon, but was still owned by the family, technically.
Yeah.
Which I just love. They're up on their like castle landing, looking out, just like, look at these lands. You shall inherit these. And there's just like the trees in the distance, like as there's like the dragon like scuttling along. Just like him too, if you can figure out what the fuck his deal is.
Yeah.
He's been having a bad decade, okay?
Yeah. You see it a little bit. It's really great because you see a bit of it in like House of the Dragon when there's more dragons around than in the show when they're all extinct. The House Targaryen, because only one of them survives the Doom, yes, Balerion, but they do bring a lot of dragon eggs with them, and the dragons that hatch in Balerion, etc., they keep producing eggs, etc. We do get a lot of dragons in the world still. And because of that, there are lots more dragons than there are dragon riders, and that means that there's a lot of wild dragons out there, and it becomes a bit of a thing of like bonding your dragon isn't always as simple as, well, my daddy had it, so now I'm gonna bond it when my daddy dies. No. Sometimes the dragon just goes, I'm done, bye, and flies off.
Dragon's like, actually, I'm good. Listen, I know I'm the
Uh-huh.
legendary steed to this dragon rider. I'm good.
To be honest, all your fucking vibes are off.
Yeah.
No
100%,
single
yeah.
one
This
of you.
fucking vibe, rancid.
Yeah, 100%.
Has a dragon ever disagreed with a war plan? Like, they've been like, we're going to invade that nation. The dragon's like,
Especially like when they're fresh. Yeah, definitely. There's a
Fuck
long.
yeah, dude.
I mean,
Well, that's kind of because
isn't
we
that the-
see.
Sorry.
No, you go.
Isn't that the whole thing? Like one of the only times once they've been bonded,
Yeah.
they've disagreed is when that one dragon wanted to go over the wall.
Yeah.
and they after like kept disagreeing.
I appreciate that they're given agency because there's a lot of times where like it's like the great mount or the great creature like Nagini from Harry Potter.
Yeah.
And it's just like I get that it's like Horcrux, but like there's also literally no fucking agency ever given to like the mounts or the creatures of the thing. And I love it when it's just like, oh, this massive creature has its own brain.
Exactly.
Merlin's another great example of this sort of thing where Merlin's dragon, like despite the fact that they're the only two people that can talk, this dragon's been locked under there for 800 years. Merlin will come to it sometimes and be like, hey, can I do thing? Dragon's like, no.
I'm not fucking helping you.
No,
Yeah.
baby.
I think that's actually really interesting. I don't know if have you seen House of the Dragon?
No.
House of the Dragon is a really interesting thing where like, in the book. The book is told by a couple different perspectives, but in the show they changed a couple things. And one thing that's really one of the most interesting changes is when they're attacking each other at one point in the show, they're literally saying, "No, don't do it, stop!" Like the dragon riders are trying to stop their dragons, but the dragons do it anyway.
Fuck
and they
yeah.
fucking just yup.
Absolutely.
And it's really interesting to see. One thing they say, one of the characters says in the show is, "We don't control the dragons; it's an illusion." I think that's one of the most interesting
100%,
things
yeah,
about that show.
definitely.
Is like the fact that the idea that we control these fucking things is fucking wrong.
Yeah, 100%.
Brought a gigantic beast into this political battle. What did you think it was gonna do?
Well, that's the thing. Like, the dragons are very intelligent creatures. They're kind of like a very, 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 very intelligent and well-trained dog, almost, where it doesn't matter how well-trained, heavy quotation marks, and how good of a relationship you have with the dog, it could just decide to turn on you and not follow your commands if the right thing sets it off.
This is such a I haven't watched Game of Thrones thing. Is there a way to communicate with the dragons?
Sort of.
Cool.
So it's shown that the dragons seem to loosely understand and be able to understand the language of the Valyrians. So when people speak High Valyrian to them, which is their ancient language,
Yep.
the dragons seem to understand. And whenever people are trying to talk to the dragons, they have to talk in Valyrian.
Okay, but the dragons more communicate their will by just like doing shit. Yeah, cool. Yeah, great. Yeah, fuck yeah.
That's good. No,
Yeah.
it's very interesting. I do love how the dragon that doesn't listen to the commands in the show is a dragon that's again hundreds of years old.
Yeah.
This is not the only ride. The rider's riding it is like a child, right?
Nice.
So it's really funny.
Child has bonded one of the... So at this point, yeah, like Matt's saying, so Balerion's the oldest dragon.
Yeah.
Balerion eventually dies. That then leaves this dragon as the oldest.
Gotcha.
So it's a very old dragon.
And it's a dragon that has been used in warfare multiple times. And this kid's like, no, wait, don't kill that person. I'm like, this is what I fucking do. Shut up the fuck up, kid.
This person pissed me off.
I'm Vega's an old lady, and she does what she wants.
Vhagar does do what she wants.
It's like that fucking
Queen.
It's like that plot line where people like
Slay.
summon a dragon and are like, or summon a demon and are just like, we're going to bind you to our will. It's like that's never, ever turned out well, and it's never going to.
Yep.
Yeah.
Anyway, so what about the Targaryens? What the fuck were they up to for this whole time?
Yeah, what the fuck were these guys? This was the whole. Isn't this the whole house? Isn't this their house?
The whole house.
Their whole house.
So, House Targaryen was among the 40 noble Dragon Lord families, ruling the Freehold, of course, vast empire, whatever. That, as I've kind of started to paint the picture of, they were a small fish in a big pond with equally sized small fish. They were one of many. If anything, maybe one of the slightly weaker Dragon Lord families. So maybe they wanted to leave. And then, of course, Daenerys had her dream. Her father, Lord Aenar Targaryen, sold everything. They relocated. They went to Dragonstone. And they went to Dragonstone with 5 dragons, all their wealth, all their slaves, all their soldiers, all their people. And they went there 114 years before the Targaryen conquest of Westeros, so probably around 50 to 60 years before the Doom. Yeah, I never said a very different thing. Never said a D&D thing, lol. They went to Dragonstone approximately 50 to 60 years before the Doom-ish. And then
About the same time that sword was sold to the Lannisters.
We've already
Crazy,
done
huh?
this conspiracy
Sorry.
we
bit.
have already done this conspiracy bit.
this episode.
And Dragonstone is the island they went to, which was just a small little island at the entrance to a part of Westeros called Blackwater Bay, and it was the westernmost outpost of Valyrian influence. And then the Doom struck, destroy the freehold. Boom, Targaryens, having left beforehand, were the only dragon riders to survive for a long time after. In the following century, so sorry, my mistake there, I did misspeak. We don't know specifically when things like the Bright Roar happened, but the Targaryens moved to Dragonstone, and then 12 years later, the Doom happened.
Okay.
So that leaves the entire century of blood and so much fucking time in between. So that's 114 years. They move. 12 years go by. That still leaves 112 years before they decide to conquest into Westeros.
102?
102. Yeah, 102, sorry.
Good.
They took their time.
They took their time. Why?
Why? You have dragon. You can win. This
But-
is not a difficult war.
The interesting thing is, not a lot of information is out there. And in my trawling the internet for sources, all that I found was people complaining about the fact that George has deliberately left it really vague what they were up to in this time. It was a long time.
So it wasn't the original family who came over who conquered Westeros, was it?
Hmm?
The original family who left Valyria.
Mhm.
It's 100
We're
years
not-
later. It's
we're
not
not the
that family.
It's not that family, yeah.
I never knew that.
Yeah.
I thought it was the three siblings.
Nope.
Where they
No,
literally.
they're like 4 or 5 generations down the line of
That's
Dragonstone.
crazy.
They've been living on a rock vault.
They've been living on Dragonstone for a long time.
I never knew that. That's crazy.
But this is the interesting thing, right? In the following century, I think I have kind of pieced together my theory of what they were up to and what I like.
Jude's found the truth.
they were fucking.
This is the truth. I mean, they were.
Technically, they were.
Um,
How do you think
However,
the next generation happens?
what we do know is that of the 5 dragons they brought with them, we know that 4 of them perished, leaving only Balerion, who was but a baby dragon when they left Valyria. We also know that 2 new dragons hatched quite quickly from the eggs on Dragonstone, and this is a dragon named Vhagar, who is around at House of the Dragon, and another dragon named Meraxes. So we have these 3 dragons, similar-ish age, start growing at Dragonstone, and they kind of become the cornerstone for this new branch of Targaryens.
Okay, because we said 5 became 3 eventually, but it's not
Yeah.
5 became 3. It's 5 became 1 became 3.
Yeah, so that's why, as it was a revelation from Matt last time, these other 2 dragons, Vhagar and Meraxes, despite the fact that they're thrown into the same category as being one of the OG 3 with Balerion, they never got to see Valyria. It was only Balerion that was alive at that time. The other 2 hatched later. In the meantime, so we know that we go from these things down to these dragons, and then 102 years later, a Targaryen decides to start conquesting and make his own big kingdom, right?
Fucking big brain move there, my guy. You got
In the
dragons.
meantime, we have painfully little knowledge. All we know for certain is that they were biding their time. But this is a collection of dot points that we know. They turned the small island outpost into a massive fortress capable of being a capital in its own right and housing entire armies and shitloads of people.
That makes sense. It's a good starting point for a war.
Good starting point. We know that they started to get to know Westeros more. We read there's a lot of sources you can read about how the Targaryens became known to Westeros as the family that lives on that mysterious island, and they started to have a lot of influence across the realm. The dragons would sometimes just fly over and pop into another family's capital. So people were kind of living in the fear of these big fucking creatures that just fly in to say hi sometimes, right?
Those fucking sibling
Yep.
fuckers.
We
Crazy.
also know that they lost 4 fucking adult dragons.
You're doing what?
Uh-huh. We know that they recruited a maester, or a healer, from the Westeros' citadel of maesters, which is not just the next thing across, it's the complete other side of the continent. So they ventured far into Westeros.
Wait, so maesters are healers?
Yeah.
I only know it from the Risk game. I thought they were just like advisors.
Bit of both.
Okay, cool.
They kind of fill both roles.
Okay.
They're trained as healers, but they also act as like chroniclers and advisors.
Gotcha.
They're also like the guy who, if your lord can't read, they read the messages. And
So
stuff
they're
like
like the wise folk.
Yeah, exactly.
Advisors slash healers slash I know extra
They
shit.
basically fill the role of the court wizard without actually being a wizard. Is
Okay,
the best way I can
cool.
put it.
Yeah, fuck with that.
that. You need a question about something, you go ask the maester.
Exactly.
The Maester knows.
So then we also know that the firstborn Lord of Dragonstone, so the one who was... So Aina fled to Dragonstone as an old man with his daughter Denise. Denise's brother and husband, Soz, was a...
Is it Denise, or wasn't it?
Denise.
Denise.
So she's the young person that has the dream.
Yeah.
Her brother and husband is named Gaemon Targaryen.
Yep.
However, he is given the title of... Shut the fuck up.
Game on.
Immature.
He is given the title of
Rejected
Gaemon the
Pokemon.
Glorious. Gaemon the Glorious, and he has been referred to in Fire and Blood and other sources as the greatest Targaryen Lord of Dragonstone. So he must have done something, right?
Nah, he
Unchronicled.
He
gave
has got-
himself that title.
He is chronicled as a great warrior, a glorious leader. All these things are credited to him, but with no fucking sources, right? And in this time between Gaemon all the way until the next big Targaryen that we know, Aegon the Conqueror, no one else has a name that stands out. There is no more glorious or great lords. There is just a period of nothing.
Well, we know the blood
so-
happened. What if he fought in that blood war, the Century of Blood thing?
Getting to that.
Ooh.
So, main takeaways, Targaryens over this century. Like I say, Gaemon must have been involved with wars happening in Westeros.
The
is
Great
my
Gaemon.
thoughts. The Great Gaemon the Glorious. And the early stages of the Century of Blood. That implies to me that the house itself was not at all hesitant to step out and fight with people. This could explain what happened to the other 4 dragons. Maybe one of them died of age, sure, but I refuse to believe that all 4 of these fucking dragons died of old age. That's bullshit.
Yeah, that makes
So my
sense.
personal belief is that Gaemon was a great fighter and tried to, once he took over after his father Aemar died, he, riding Balerion, because that might make sense that he bonded Balerion, he tried to get the Targaryens involved in fighting throughout the Century of Blood and tried to get into fighting in Westeros. The result was that he won a lot, thus his reputation, but throughout fighting, they lost 4 dragons. This then would have terrified his descendants and put them in the position of never wanting to leave their little island, right?
You're watching your grandfather spend your inheritance on...
Gambling.
Literally.
I need my titles. I must spend the money in my local RSL club.
Exactly.
They call me the Great
They
Gaemon.
call me the Glorious.
So that's my theory. I reckon that he's come over, he's gone out, done all this fighting, but through the fighting, they've actually lost 4 of the dragons, and that's then put them in the position of, holy fuck, we need to stop. We've got 2 other baby dragons and a bunch of eggs, but
Yikes.
and that's where we have about 100 years of the Targaryens doing absolutely nothing, even including the Century of Blood. Officially speaking, there is only one Targaryen who comes up in the Century of Blood, and that's who we're going to get to now.
Imagine when you said lost, they didn't die. They literally just lost track of they're somewhere. I just don't know where they fucking went.
We lost them, and now we cannot find them.
Dragonstone's just got like a cave. You like eventually like move things, and you should find just like the
Want to know
dragons.
the
tucked underneath.
funniest thing?
I lost my
Yeah.
keys. I lost my dragon.
A lot of the wild dragons are quoted as living in a cave on Dragonstone.
Fuck yeah, dude! I knew it.
So I mean, maybe.
God, I'm on the
Um,
while I'm firing off headcanons. Also, additional headcanon. Gaemon was not a great fighter. He was in fact a great writer. He
I
just
also like
made up
that.
a bunch of bullshit,
He
Yeah.
was a great lover.
and then 100 years they just died of boredom.
Well, yeah, maybe. So that then brings us to the last little topic for today: the Century of Blood and Aegon's rise. So, as we've said, Volantis towards the middle to tail end of the Century of Blood was Volantis trying to dominate Valyria's former colonies, but most of the free cities rebelled. Towards the end of this turbulent period, a young Targaryen, who I mentioned before, was approached by Pentos and Tyrosh to form an alliance against Volantis. This Targaryen was none other than a young Aegon Targaryen riding Balerion. Aegon went, fuck yeah, I'll join your war, jumped on the back of Balerion, went to the Prince of Pentos and then Lys, and just single-handedly took down the entire Volantene fleet and flipped the scales of the war immediately in one action.
No, flipped them off as he went.
With Volantis' ambitions thwarted, Aegon returned to Dragonstone, and then went, that was kind of easy. And from that point onwards, he turned his gaze westward towards the lands that had always fascinated him.
To be fair, okay.
But that is a story for another time.
Let me, when you have an empire of dragons, right? You are kingdoms. You probably find a way. Okay, we have a method on how to deal with a dragon when we have one, right? So if you're talking about if 4 dragons did die in small conflicts, that was enough time to remember. Oh, this is how we deal with dragons. This is what we do when we have dragons and we deal with them. Well, after a century, it's enough time for the Targaryens to forget, wow, we could lose these dragons. It's also enough time for people to forget how to deal with them.
100%.
They haven't seen dragons for 100 years.
Everyone on that boat, it's not, they have never seen or fought a dragon. Their parents never seen or fought a dragon. Even their grandparents may not have seen or fought a dragon.
They may have been a child when the fall.
Yeah.
So even though in what's coming off on Westeros, same thing.
They've never had to fight a dragon before. Exactly. And that would bring us to Aegon's conquest of Westeros, which originally my scope for this episode was to do the Doom and then Aegon's conquest. But I found so many more things about the Doom and wanted to talk about the theories and decided, you know what? We'll save Aegon's conquest for another day.
Part 3!
That's really
I'm not doing a part 3.
Part 3!
I'm not doing a part 3.
Part.
Because the thing is, Aegon's conquest can stand on its own as a standalone
Stand
episode.
on its own part 3.
Shut up.
One day in the future. But yes,
One day in the future, part 3.
that is Old Valyria and the Doom.
I feel doomed already.
That is, honestly, a lot of the stuff I've heard. I watch Old Shift X a lot. That YouTuber you mentioned, he's great. But a lot of stuff about the Targaryens' early days, never fucking heard about that. That's kind of cool.
Yeah,
It's really cool.
I'm enjoying some of the mystery elements, you know? Like, I know it's unsolved stuff of, what happened for that 100 years? Did this guy do that? How did the Doom happen? But, that's the kind of best lore stuff we get into. Headcanons and that sort of shit. Delicious.
100%.
Oh, Game of Thrones is so good and bad about their theories. It's just too much. It's because I think it's also the fact that, one, the world keeps expanding every book, and 2, there's so much time between books that you kind of go crazy thinking about theories.
100%. 100%.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about that steaming sea, that
The smoking sea. Yeah.
But like you
I
say,
reckon that has to come from some kind of magma events.
I want a one novel, a single expedition novel of finding the ruins and those lost nation things and what they've become in the meantime with creatures. That's that gritty, juicy little
It's really cool.
mystery.
It's actually, I hate to throw a mention out there to Brandon Sanderson in a super not Brandon Sanderson episode, but it's funny you mentioned that. There is, so in Stormlight Archives books, he's got in between, so obviously there's the books, and there's part 1 break, part 2 break. In those breaks in between parts of the book inside, so inside the book, he split it up into book 1, part 1 chapters, and then you get to the end of part 1, then it goes to part 2 in the same book. Do you know what I mean?
Sure, yeah.
In between those big parts, he has interludes where he has 3 short stories set in the world. And one of them, in one of the early Stormlight Archives books, was exactly that guy. It was an island that we've heard mysteriously mentioned as being somewhere where people go and die and never come back from. Some mysterious accident happened there. We get a little short story of a sailing ship getting to the coast, trying to disembark, and we see all this fucked up shit that happens to them, and it ends with them all dying.
I just I don't know. I feel that's where fantasy really takes off for me, is when the unanswered questions are because it's a foray. I think Skyrim, Dwemer do it really well. Journey to the Center of the Earth, Jules Verne.
What it
Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs 2.
What?
What are you talking? What? Ancient Empire. What's happened to it in the meantime? They discover a mysterious island and look at what's happened since then. Am I wrong?
Fuck, he's not.
Not seen those movies ever in my life.
No, he's completely right.
Still a good movie.
But
Fantastic.
I agree with you. I agree with you a lot. I think what it tells about a world, it hints to a world that's not just this story, a much deeper world that has existed before and will exist after this story, and feels a lot like a real universe.
And yeah, to be honest, that being interwoven with this grand pitched, Game of Thrones political intrigue stuff makes me a little bit more interested in the world of it. Just the idea that there are these little bits of fantasy mystery. Delicious.
It's not all gross political
Yeah, because
drama.
I've seen a lot of speeches. I've seen a lot of like big murder. I've seen like political thing, and it's like I'm a more personal, I'm a small scale type of guy.
Yeah.
Also,
fair
as
enough.
someone, the smoking sea could just be a hot spring.
It could.
I've been to natural hot springs. They're fucking hot,
Yeah.
and they steam.
Yeah.
So maybe it's not smoke. Maybe they just think it's smoke.
Yeah.
It's actually steam.
Could be.
I would hope.
No one ever survives going there.
No, exactly. No one can. How do they know so much? How do they know it's? Like, I guess they don't know much,
Yeah.
but they know they have a map enough.
Yeah.
It's-
That's the interesting
How do they have
thing.
the map?
The reason, I mean, I still haven't actually properly read all of the books of A Song of Ice and Fire.
Yeah.
But when the next one comes out, I will probably get into reading them all, because one of the big questions that is probably going to be answered in the next book is just a little bit more tidbits of what is happening in Old Valyria, because there is a character who is in the big spotlight in the books currently, whose whole thing is, as I mentioned last time, he's got this dragon horn, and he says, I've got this dragon horn from the ruins of Old Valyria. That's right, I went there. I'm the only person that's ever gone there and survived. I'm the greatest sailor that ever lived.
He's a fucking liar.
To be
Well,
fair,
that's the thing. We're kind of being set up for the next book to see how legit that is.
he has the balls to pull up. Like he has the.
Well, then he can't be the greatest of anything because he has his balls.
He's right.
That's true. He's right. But he literally has a full set of Valyrian steel armor, and multiple weapons from Valyrian steel.
Okay.
So like,
Yeah.
he's one of the only guys that kind of like, maybe this guy's not bluffing.
It's pretty funny. So in the books, guy, he's a character that is, like Matt says, is wearing. So we've got this insane, nigh on impenetrable metal Valyrian steel. He's got a full armor suit out of it. Is this terrifying warlord who fights in this steel armor with a Valyrian steel sword. In the show, he's just a loud Scottish man that doesn't wear any clothes, basically.
He is one of the most. He's a guy who wears an eye patch and has said that he has like a red eye underneath. Like he's one of the most intimidating people in the books, and literally.
The show, he goes to battle making dick jokes, shirtless, holding a big axe.
There's the one
Yeah.
part of the book they've read of the next book is about him doing like a ritual where he kills like hundreds of people of different religions to summon like a kraken from below.
Yep.
Like it's like he's
Hey guys, you were trying to sell me on the fucking Game of Thrones thing, and you're like political intrigue, sex, nudity. You should have just told me about the pirate. The pirate's it. The pirate's it.
He's kind of fucking sick.
He's kind of right.
I'm into the pirates.
It's true. Guy would love the Greyjoys.
Oh, he has a boat called the Silence because he's chopped off all the tongues of everyone on board.
Seems like a bad way to establish
It
rapport
do-
with your crew, but like,
It does seem there is like hints that maybe he like I think skin shapes into his crew to control them, because how else a crew of people who are silent communicate? I guess maybe hand signals, but yeah.
They're really good at a sign language.
Yeah, exactly. It's a language, yeah. Anyway, but
That's we'll keep. Yeah, we could talk forever, but that is the episode.
if you want to hear us talk more, you can join us on our Patreon, where we upload little mini episodes of us talking about our local nerd news and whatever we found that fascinated us in the last week or so.
That's it.
So join our Patreon today to get that. You become a official lawkeeper and join our lawkeepers today. But hey, if giving money is not your thing, or you just want to keep up to date with our podcasts, you can follow us on Instagram, on TikTok, on YouTube, on Facebook.
if you want to correct us, get up in the Discord, and if you want to watch us stream, get on the Twitch.
Exactly. Memes and a bunch of fun things to do with any sort of universe goes on the
TikTok.
Instagram and TikTok. So
They do way better than they have any right to do.
I've
I
been-
don't know how you cook this.
I've been making memes about like the alien invasion meme, but it's like Lord of the Rings. You know,
Yeah,
some fun
yeah.
there. I need to
That
make
one's done
more.
well.
I'm just so I've been in Japan.
when you cook hard. I'll be honest.
I've been in Japan.
That Ben 10 one went really hard.
Yeah, I love that Ben 10. I need to do a Ben 10 story one.
Yeah, you
That'd be
do,
fucking
you
sick.
do.
Anyway,
If you don't want to lose your dragons, if you rate the number of stars you rate us, or the number of dragons you don't lose.
Yeah.
exactly. You started with 5. So
You started with 5.
5 stars. If you go down 1 star, you lost a dragon.
You got no
That's
eggs
awesome.
either. I'm telling you this
Yeah.
now. No
No
recovery.
Don't lose a dragon.
Don't
Don't
lose a
be
dragon.
like Gain on the
Game on.
Game on the grave.
Don't be the game on.
Be the game.
Game on.
You gotta. It sounds like you're trying to make fun of that name, and I'm
Yeah.
not sure what's funny about it.
I don't know.
too.
Nothing,
I don't know
nothing
what's
at
funny
all.
about it, Matt.
Nothing at
Yeah.
all. Rate us 5 stars, please.
Just go back to the old man.
Please,
Just begging.
Please just beg us.
But the best thing you do, please listen and share it with your friends.
Yeah.
The more we spread this podcast, the better we are. The lore we spread.
That's it. And get excited for House of the Dragon Season 2 by watching this episode. Okay, thank you.
Let's
and
hope the writer's strike didn't fucking kill the script.
Let's see, baby.
thank you and good morning.
Good night, dear listeners.
And good sailing. Good winds upon ye.
Yeehaw!
Yeehaw.
So if you had a dragon,
Dragging these nuts across your face.
but no, I'm not continuing on.
I fucking slam, swish. Oh, baby, you
Get
look me
fucking-
right in the eyes. If you had a dragon, what would you? I mean, I
I
probably
would imagine them and make a band.
Damn.
Radioactive.
That's a good song. I'm be real.
Thank you for listening to Living by the Law. If you enjoyed our podcast, please leave a review, tell your friends, and if you're feeling extra generous, become an official lawkeeper by joining our Patreon today. Follow us on TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook at Living by the Law. All links are in the description, and thank you in advance. We have been, and always will be, living by the law. Thank you for your company, and good night.